If the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest hour.
We stand for Queen,
Country, and Video Games. BRB UK.
Worse teeth,
Better accents.
Hello and welcome to episode 310 of the Big Red Barrel UK podcast. I am Coleman. Hi! And this is one hell of an echoey episode because we are in the biggest room in the world for recording podcasts, which isn't meant to have podcast recording here. But hey, I am on site at the NEC Arena in Birmingham, and with me, of course, is Mr. Timothy Kenneth James Hibbs.
Hello.
Who loves being full named.
Why are you full naming me?
Love being full named. Yeah, we're here for EGX, which we totally forgot to warn you about in the last episode. So if you were expecting an episode on Friday, surprise!
Yeah. Well, to be fair, we do it every year, so they kind of had a year's warning.
I think we warned them 3 weeks before the event,
Yeah.
but then forgot to the show before.
Yeah.
In fact, I told Dan the day before that we were doing this.
Oh yeah, by the way, Dan, no podcast this week, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, Dan. Yeah, so we're on site for EGX 2018. We are on the last day of it now, hence the echoey empty room, because most people have gone. But we are going to talk to a bevy of awesome guests. Also, we're going to interlace some interviews, and then we're going to come back and see if we can grab someone to talk about our own actual impressions of the show itself. Before we do that, though, Tim, how'd you find it this year?
I enjoyed it. As always with me, there were more games I would like to play, and even though we cheated our way around a few queues here and there...
Professionally pressed our way through.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's any better. But yeah, even though we kind of took advantage of those things where we could and kind of go to everything, there's still loads of stuff that I'd like to spend more time playing and loads of stuff that I feel that I missed. That said, it felt a little bit more empty than it has in previous years, and I think that is just because there was no presence from Microsoft and no presence from EA, and they were two big misses, I think.
Yeah, especially Microsoft with Forza Horizon.
That should have been it. I can't understand why it isn't.
Yeah,
basically.
and also as well, like you had a perfect opportunity, even if you're not bringing up a full lineup of Crackdown and God knows what else. You have Forza Horizon that's about to come out at a consumer show.
Yeah.
So you could be showing off your brand new game that is about to come out and go, by the way, you can buy it. Or next to us, here's a selection of Idea Xbox on display and some demos on, much like PlayStation did with PlayStation Now. Resd. They could have done that with Idea Xbox. They could have given away the month free codes again. And
that's the thing.
You can play Forza for free with this code.
But that's the thing. They had a large section at Resd of Idea of Xbox games. That's where I originally saw Wargroove and stuff like that. And I can't quite understand them not wanting to continue like with pushing, aggressively pushing Idea Xbox forward, which they seem to have been doing at all previous events. And then also, as you say, representing with the one big game that they have at the moment, which is Forza, and then just getting a few third-party things to also exhibit on their stand to just remind people that, it's a force in gaming. The one thing I say is that they do seem to be generally pulling back, not just from EGX, but from a lot of things. Like they didn't have a big Gamescom presence this year. Like
in the last few years,
but I mean, in the last few years, generally, I think they have made the conscious decision, at least for whether they're pulling back in general. I think it's more likely they'll just basically cut their losses from this generation a little bit, and are looking to put all their eggs in the basket of the next generation going forward, which in their present situation, I can kind of understand the decision to make that and go in that direction. As I said, I think it's just a bit of a shame for the show that it was slightly offset by the fact that Nintendo had quite a large presence here, and PlayStation had an even bigger stand than previous years.
Is Nintendo getting the expanding outwards
each
year?
Yeah, I think they've got physically bigger. I mean, I think last year, didn't they have the big kind of statue thing that was taking up quite a lot of space on their stand? Whereas this year, they seem to have as big, if not bigger, space, even more crammed with games, basically, in a good way. Like, and they seem to have a bit of the kind of like they had the Fortnite stuff that was a bit tagged onto it and stuff, but there was like other things that seemed...
There's a lot of Fortnite this year.
Yeah. Well, Fortnite's well represented, and we won't be talking about it very much because, quite frankly, we don't care.
I'm sick of Fortnite, to be honest.
Like, a little bit rammed down our throats at the moment. But
I'm really liking PlayStation's section this year. Like with the Spider-Man, again, it's a consumer show, so a lot of the games that are on show are available right now. So there's Spider-Man on show, and they have a big Spider-Man statue you can take your photo with. I had to do it myself. I love Spider-Man.
I'd be meaning to.
That was really nice. Ubisoft, like, even though they're hidden out in the back somewhere for some reason, I'm not sure. Like, they got the short straw this year. The displays they have, they did a similar thing with Division as they did with the first Division game, where they've kind of cornered it off and made big barriers and things, made it look kind of post-apocalyptic type thing. And they've done that this time. But then if you go behind, it's all new society, vegetation growing and stuff. That was cute.
Fruit and veg as well, kind of as in like market stalling
fruit
type
and veg
things.
And tools and things. And then if you go past Assassin's Creed, there's the Greek statues and things. It was all very nice. I'm really liking the atmosphere this year as well. And it seems like the friendliest EGX I've been to in a while.
Yeah, it does seem to be less
starting to get a bit...
Maybe it's because the FIFA gamers aren't.
Generally, like, people that I'm talking to seem a bit more upbeat and not as tired so soon. I don't know if there's less people here or if it's just there's more space or...
It does feel a bit more spaced out in a good way, but and I said, but the kind of, there is a slight emptiness to the I think the lack of presence from Microsoft, and also, as I mentioned, the lack of presence from EA. I cannot believe that they aren't going out all bells and whistles with showing Anthem at this time. Like, if that's not ready to show now and it's releasing in February, like, I'm a bit more worried. And they seem to have been showing that off in other places around the world. Like Gamescom.
I mean, even if we got an E3 type thing where they, so Square Enix is showing off Just Cause 4. It's not playable, but they have a big screen with a video that you can watch trailers on it. And then every now and then they'll be doing Q&As, or Simon Miller does some presenting with people. And they could have done something like that. They could have quite easily had a projector up, constantly playing the trailers and the gameplay videos and
just
stuff.
putting it in people's minds.
And then suddenly, 4 o'clock, we've got a Q&A. We'll sit down in the front.
And look, they're not here at all, EA, basically. No. So, like, it seems like a very odd decision. To me, it seems like they don't have beliefs in some of their big tentpole games at the moment, basically. Like, FIFA, there's obviously going to sell. They've got problems with the whole maybe putting a massive dent in the foot stuff, the FUT stuff. And that could be, that probably might be taking a bit of their attention away at the moment on the FIFA side of things. But then, I can't believe they're not showing off Battlefield, but that seems to be getting bad press. But you need to counteract that. Like, you are not going to convince people to like your game by not showing them your game. Like, that's never going to happen. You are going to convince some people if they can see the game. I guess the problem with a lot of those things at the moment is that the beta's out, and so they probably couldn't do much else.
It's been out.
Well, been out, but...
And it's been at PAX, and people complained at PAX, and people complained of
and so I guess that might be part of the reasoning, but I don't know if they were ever planning to actually attend a show or not. I don't know, but
we've not heard anything like that.
But I think FIFA was listed on the actual, the map and stuff that went round, and that doesn't seem to be on the show floor. So that is
unless it's somewhere in PlayStation, I just missed it.
No, I've asked people at PlayStation, they don't.
Did you know Lego Super Villains 2?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was it. I walked past it on the last day and went, oh!
Some things can be more easily missed than others. But I don't know. It's, for me, it's slightly troubling times for some of their games if they don't believe in them enough to show them off to the public, basically. I don't know how much that's playing into it, but there's something wrong with EA not showing some of their biggest games at the biggest UK gaming event, basically.
Anyway, all that aside, this has been one of the... As much as I love EGX, and it is a time of year that I really look forward to, I spend my year waiting for this time of year, essentially, because I love it. I love going away. I love being around people. I love being around my people. I love meeting listeners from the show. I love meeting the game devs and talking and playing new games, obviously. I love queuing up for hours. It's great. And, all that aside, it's still a very stressful time for me because we're running around, we're doing interviews, we're trying to get footage, or we're trying to get quotes from people, and we're trying to write about stuff, and then we're trying to organize this podcast as well, and we're lugging stuff around. This year it's felt a lot more chilled for me, and mainly because of the environment. I've been way less stressed than I've ever been at an EGX since we started doing these things.
You only had 2 days with me, so that
might be
helps.
that, yeah. I've had my own time to do my own thing, and in that time I got to play all the big games because I wasn't standing around talking. But no, it's good. I solidly enjoyed it this year, and I'm already looking forward to Rest. So we're not going to Berlin. So
yeah.
EGX Berlin started. Anyway, so with that, I think we're going to jump straight over to the first set of interviews, and then we'll come back at the end of the show with whoever the hell we can grab to talk about what games we've been playing. Yeah? Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Thumbs up don't work on a podcast.
No. So if we just like to go around the table and introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Danny from UpperRoom Games, and we're working on Wavey the Rocket.
Rodrigo from Chucklefish, and I'm lead programmer on Wargroove.
And I'm Katie, also from Chucklefish, working on Wargroove in the marketing team.
Okay, now, as they're outnumbering you and outnumbering me, I think I have to go this side first. But also, I have to go with the fact that, coming away from Res, and I've told you this already, so I'm not, buttering up, but from Res early in this year, Wargroove was my game of the show, basically. It's one that I did a little preview write-up about, and I am very much looking forward to. So, for anyone that hasn't seen anything about this, is it too sort of derivative to say it's like, well, no, is it too demeaning to say that it's derivative of Advance Wars, or is that kind of what you were going for?
Yeah, not at all. I think we're happy to acknowledge the influence from Advance Wars. We're all very big fans of Advance Wars in the studio. There hasn't been a game in the series for well over 10 years. And we wanted to play one, so we figured maybe we'll try and make one. And we take from a lot of the fundamentals of the genre, but then we add our own twists, our own new changes to the formula, and try to make something new and fresh.
Okay, and that's something where you're obviously saying fans. You're speaking the language that I like to hear, because you're basically. That's exactly. If I could do what you did, that's probably what I'd be doing, kind of thing. Filling the holes in the market of the games that have disappeared and stuff like that. And as I said, I'm a big fan of the Advance Wars series myself, and so it would be really good to see someone fulfilling that and then kind of bringing a game to market. It does have its own kind of differences and slight nuances to Advance Wars. What would you say the main sort of differences and things that separate it are? I mean, I'd say theme is the overall thing.
Yeah, we have a fantasy theme for one. Mechanically, we introduce some new concepts, such as the commanders being on the field. They're very powerful units, and they have a special move, their groove, that you really have to use the commander in battle to charge. So you have to put them forward and risk them, because if they are defeated in battle, then you will lose the match. So it adds this whole dynamic. We also added a few other layers of strategy in terms of like critical hits for the units. So each unit in the game has a condition that, if fulfilled, causes the unit to do more damage. So, for example, the knights, if they move their full movement range before an attack, they will do extra damage. So you have to consider those extra factors, which makes the game a bit deeper.
Yeah, it gives it a bit more tactical depth to itself as well. Okay, and on the flip side, they're doing something, I would say, that is... we said the word derivative, and I'm not sure if I can come up with a better word than that, basically, but definitely kind of heavily influenced and in the style of another game. Whereas I'd say Wavey the Rocket is almost on the opposite end of the spectrum in something totally unique and different and very much its own thing.
Yeah, that is quite the case. There's one game that's sort of similar that we found sort of 6 months into development, which is called Waveform, and it's pretty cool, but it feels very different. The way they control the wave is completely different. But because Wavey grew from a game jam, and we had the set limitations of the theme is a wave, like that just sort of allowed us to run with ideas. And by the end of the weekend, we had a prototype, and it wasn't that playable, but we felt that might be something special, and we've just been polishing since then, trying to...
And it's one of those things where I find it, I don't know if you've got a more well-crafted elevator pitch for what it is, but I'm finding it difficult to kind of describe, because it's not something you can describe in the in the it's this plus this.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not something you can go, it's a roguelike with this. And, you know, like, it doesn't really lend itself well to those sorts of
like, for a long time we were trying to find like a genre that it sits in and stuff. And currently what we're telling people is it's a side-scrolling action puzzle game.
Right, yeah.
But the basic idea is you follow the shape of a sine wave and you manipulate the amplitude and the wavelength to control the character through the environment, and you have to avoid obstacles to take down the evil too.
And I think a lot of people, especially when looking at it visually, one of their first questions is, does that control like the sound within the thing? And I think that's because of the visual wave type thing. But that's something you're using in a very different way to how I've seen it used in a game before, basically. Yeah,
definitely. We've had quite a few people sort of say about manipulating sound when you're changing the wave. So we're sort of discussing maybe a Zen mode in which you'd sort of have that, and it's sort of a little bit different. But the main game, the idea is just to sort of avoid the obstacles and sort of go through.
And it's a pathfinding thing, basically, but with a very different mechanic for helping to find that path. And I think you said that in itself has, for a development side of things, created its own sort of unique problems for you to solve, because other people have, you know, solved the problems of platformers before and stuff like that, but not necessarily in what
that's it. I mean, we're heavily inspired by platformers. I mean, like, I grew up with like Sonic the Hedgehog and those sort of games, and that's the feeling we're trying to get while giving you like a new way to play a game, and then having to like, everyone who sits down is like on a completely equal playing field. So like, we haven't got any, there's no like level design foundations, and like we even had to like scope out like what the character's moveset is. So it all depends on where you come from before. So if you make them shrink the wave first, then send them to like a big wave, like that can be quite difficult. Whereas if it's like, and then the gap between them as well. So, and every level like is completely like flows into itself. So we've really got to be careful as we're building the levels that we're not sending the player onto a different path and stuff like that.
Okay. And how has it been like, because it came from a game jam, and is this your first time actually showing the game to the public, or
we actually showed it last year's EGX?
Okay. We didn't come across it at that point, but
we literally slipped under the radar, and our poster wasn't great and the location. But in all honesty, like the demo was more. It was like 6 months into development rather than a year and a half.
Right, so
I think now we've wrapped a lot more things around it that people are quite acceptable. Then people are more open to the idea as well, because it feels familiar in other ways, even if the gameplay is new.
But then, do you feel that even at that early stage, that was a useful thing for you to do to get to this point?
Yeah, it definitely really was. And we showed it at a few smaller events before as well, just because we really need play testers, and we're trying to like. Last year at EGX, we really just sort of analysed exactly what people are doing, and then this year we've come back stronger. And then even on Thursday, like, we went home and changed the build because we saw some people were stuck in a loop, and we wanted to sort of keep them playing through the game. So,
and how is it with Wargroove? Like, obviously, I saw it at Res. Is that something where? I don't know how many people you have in your studio. I have an impression you're a sort of mid-sized sort of studio.
We're about 18 of us at the moment, so I'd still say quite small.
Quite small, on the smaller side. But
for the fact that I think 80% of us are developers, and then the rest are on the publishing side.
Right.
So we're still quite small, but I think we're still finding, we're at, I'd say, the finishing stages of our project, but these events are really valuable for us because we still see, for example, our tutorials that we've been working on lately, but we're noticing how players interpret our instructions and kind of taking feedback, and we've written a list of notes to update. I think it's completely fine to say that, because it's really invaluable for developers to see this.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things where it's better than just like having people play the demo sort of remotely and then sort of feedback information to you, because you can see what they're actually struggling with, you can see the problems that they're actually going through, and they don't have to then explain that to you in a way that can be easily understood and interpreted by you, basically. So.
Yeah, and it even allows us to see problems that the user might not have perceived as a problem. Sometimes you can play a game and come out of it with like, that wasn't great, but you might not be able to easily articulate why. But with the developers watching people play the game, sometimes that didn't work the way we intended to work. So very valuable in that way.
Yeah, and but have you enjoyed watching people get into their groove this weekend? Has it been a good experience to sort of watch people enjoying the game as well, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's been very, very positive to watch people. I've been standing up for 4 days, but I get all the energy back from just watching the enthusiasm and talking to people.
Yeah,
and
it's been fantastic. Like it really has. Like seeing people connecting with your game, and something that you've been kind of like, you know, we do stuff and we think, oh, that's pretty cool, but you don't know other people will think the same. And I've just been watching people playing it and being just like, oh, I want to get off, I want to play it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that must be nice because you're obviously sort of, you know, slightly more secluded, and not by yourself necessarily, but, you know, off, kind of isolated, doing just, you know, head down doing that work, and then to come up for a bit of air and actually see people get enjoyment out of that must be a very nice relief kind of thing, you know?
It's nice to know you don't like have an ugly child.
It's great, especially when you see people staying until the time limit, or people coming back to play a second or a third time. It really makes us feel confident in the quality of the product we're developing.
And I noticed something that I didn't see on display in the previous build that I saw in this one was the multiplayer that you had available this time. I don't know if I just didn't see it on the previous build, or is that fairly new? Or?
I can't remember if we had the multiplayer, but Wargroove supports both local and online multiplayer, up to 4 players. And when playing online, you can play either synchronously or asynchronously. So you can have multiple matches going on at once, and you take your turn, wait for your opponent. It's like playing chess by mail.
But that's something I can see being really fun, and just adding another layer to it as well. Likewise, you've got the kind of level creation tools and stuff like that as well, and being able to share the levels, I think, which is something that you couldn't do in the Advanced Wars series. So you're taking something that they had a limitation on and removing that limitation, which is nice as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think the multiplayer and the modern technology, the fact that we can do like online creation stuff has been really exciting for us. Like, we are allowing players to create their own maps, create their own campaigns, like rewrite the story, basically create their own branching paths and stuff like that. A little bit nervous about that because of what people would do with it, but it's exciting at the same time too. And there's so much that you can do in terms of how you tweak it, and the tool that we're using to actually make our campaign itself and all of our maps is the exact same tool that we'll be shipping with the game. So that's really cool. Theoretically, players should be able to make the same standard of maps, potentially better than us. If they...
I don't think you want that necessarily. I want people being better at your job than you are.
You know, if they make some exciting stuff, then
you might be looking to hire them and get them into the company.
We have hired people in the team that started out by making mods for Starbound, for example, and then they came on to work full time on the team. So it's always a career entry point.
And you do hear of that. I mean, I think Dreams has been worked on by people that, you know, they employed from Little Big Planet and stuff like that. So you do see that going through as well. And with Wavey the Rocket, have you got any plans for, like, I'm not sure if it lends itself to this, but have you got any plans for sort of multiplayer or any kind of
so I'm trying to push for, like,
or stuff, basically?
I definitely want, like, I've had a few ideas where maybe, like, you have another character which actually travels just along the wave, and then, like, if a kid's watching their dad play or something like that, they could actually just, like, run him along and grab the pickups quicker and stuff like that.
A bit like the kind of Mario Kart second player type thing. Not Mario Kart, Mario, but yeah.
And we're definitely thinking post-launch there'll be a level designer, because, like I said, with the level design, like, it'd be great to see what other people can do as well, and not just what we've managed to figure out.
Have you thought about making the actual, like, having one adjusting the amplitude and one adjusting the frequency and having that, or would that mess with people's brains and relationships too much?
I definitely think it would be quite fun. Yeah, you can already kind of do it because we've got it on the keyboard, so you could play like one person here and one person there. But yeah, there could be something more to that as well.
Cool. All right, now let's talk release dates and platforms and all those wonderful things that people need to know if they're going to actually get their hands on the game. So, Wavey the Rocket, do you have a release window schedule yet?
So, we have 2 release schedules because we're currently looking for more funding and publishing. If we get that, then we'd like to do like a multi-platform launch. If not, then we're going to be releasing earlier, and we'll do a staggered Steam launch first, and then approach the consoles after.
Okay. And have you got an idea for time frame on that?
6 to 9 months for the first one, if it happens.
Cool. Well, that's good to see. And yeah, so people can look out for it definitely on Steam, and then hopefully on other platforms.
And we have our like demo available on our website, so waveytherocket.com. You can actually go play the demo. That's here now as well.
People can stop listening to us, stop wasting their time filling their ears with nonsense and go play the game. Well, actually, they could do both. They could multitask that. Go do that. That's good. And so for Wargroove, when can people get their hands on it? Where and when? And
well, you should be able to play it hopefully very well soon. But we are in the finishing stages, like the polishing and stuff of the games. We don't have a set release date right now, but we're hoping to give more information soon. But it's going to be available on PC, on PS4, on Xbox One, and Switch.
Yeah. And we're hoping to do simultaneous release on all of those platforms.
And I have to say, my preview was on it was in ID Xbox, so I definitely knew it was on Xbox, and the person was, I think, naturally being a bit cagey about saying anything else about Pavel. So my preview, I was like, I think this should be coming to Switch. I hope it's coming to Switch. So I'm very glad to hear that that's the confirmation, because I think that's definitely the platform I need to be playing that game on. Basically, so good. Just as an overview, how have you guys found, particularly EGX 2018 this year? Is there anything that you've had time to play that you found particularly interesting, or anything else you want to add to that?
I've barely had time to leave.
Yeah, I know that's often the case.
I did drop by Nintendo booth to check, because we have a build on the Nintendo booth as well. And I noticed a game called Baba Is You, which I thought was genius. So I'm very interested in the game. Okay. And Untitled Goose Game looks amazing.
Yes.
I think there's been massive queues for that all weekend. It's been hard to get onto, but but that looks really fun.
Untitled Goose Game is literally the only game I've played other than our own this whole time, and I was honking all the time, just continuous honking.
But yeah, is that as fun as it looks, though? Basically,
it really is.
I might have to try and play that before I go home.
It's great.
And what about you? Anything?
It's been mad. I got to play Soulcalibur this morning, and that was pretty awesome. I'm quite excited. It's not far away. I got beat, so I'm playing it every more now in practice. Apart from that, in the transfuser place, played Tetra, and that was really fun.
Good. And you generally had a good show. It's been a good experience for you guys this year, and worth doing, basically.
It's my first time at EGX since it moved to Birmingham. I've been at the 2012 event in Oscart, and I've been to Raz twice. So I didn't quite know what to expect, but I very much enjoyed the show. I think it's very good. It's a very good conference to be in. Cool.
Yeah, it's been lovely. I've been every year, but as a veteran EGXer, but all the people have just been so lovely coming to us, and people seem to be really engaging with the indie area, like the first zone, which is fantastic. So
that seems to be going from strength to strength over the years as well. So that's good to see.
Yeah, and for me, I come from consumer since it's sort of been opening. So actually having a stall where we're getting positive feedback from most people. We've got kids who are setting higher scores than anyone else at the event. 8-year-old kids set the highest score yesterday of the event. And so for me, it's probably been one of the best 4 days of my life. It's just been crazy.
As I said, it's that nice relief of getting
literally a year and a half working on this thing in my bedroom. And,
that child is not ugly. And the rest of the world doesn't think so. That's good.
Yeah, literally.
Cool. Anyway, thank you very much for coming, guys.
Great
chatting to you, and I'm really keen to see the end results on both of your games as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
No, my bed don't weigh the same.
This is it. This is where it all ended.
Hi, I'm with the art director from Dontnod Entertainment. This is Pierre. Hi, Pierre. Hi. So we're here to talk about Twin Mirror, which is the new game from Dontnod. I believe is it set in the same universe as the previous games of Life is Strange?
Oh, not at all. It's not completely different and new team. So it's strictly separated.
Okay, so not in the same universe. I got that wrong from playing the game, but they do have a very similar look to them. Now, as the art director, so is that a choice to make them look similar in what kind of engine they're using, or is it?
Not at all. We have started to basically Twin Mirror is a psychological thriller, so it's got lots more darker atmosphere. So we were really developing a visual theme around this aspect. So my main focus was to create a universe that fits this theme. So Twin Mirror is a game about an investigator called Samuel Higgs, and he go back to his hometown, and because his best friend just died. And he have lots of bad memories in this hometown because previously he broke up with his ex-girlfriend. He failed to propose her to marriage, so it was really a hard time for him, and then you wake up one morning in the motel room with no memories at all from what happened the previous night, and you find this shirt covered in blood. So from there, you have to explore the town and talk to the inhabitants to find the truth.
Okay, so from that point on, you're then looking at probably the biggest mechanic in the game, which is the use of the Mind Palace.
Yeah.
Which very dreamscapey, very surreal.
Yeah.
You've got objects stairs forming in front of you with doorways, archways, and things. So what's the kind of processing coming up with that whole style?
Okay, so the main idea was creating contrast, because Twin Mirror is a game about duality, so you can find that everywhere, even in the logo. And the idea was that the hero was evolving in this really dark and grim atmosphere of West Virginia, where there is a lot of unemployment. It's not like the most pleasant place you can find on Earth. So the Mind Palace is an escape for Sam, because Sam is not a confident character. He's not like doing well in real life, and we wanted to create a place where Sam can, an inner place, an inner world where Sam can find peace and escape that reality. So this is why it's so colorful and so different from real life. So we wanted to be colorful, poetic, and something where the hero can have a break and have time to think and put things in order in his head.
Okay, so we're talking about the concept of the Mind Palace itself. So the visual style of it, how did you come about the whole creation of that?
So it really was based on Mind Palace, how they work. It's in real life. It's people choose places they know and they're comfortable with. So it can be your room or anything. So in Simon's case, this place is constructed originally around memories from his childhood when he has some nice holiday with his parents around somewhere near the sea. So this is why you have this infinite sea and blue sky and all these rocks. And then years after years, he builds these layers of memories that build up this tower you can see in the trailer. And so yeah, the Mind Palace is really constructed around this tower, so it's like an infinite tower where he really stock by memories from his past.
Okay. Yeah, because that's definitely something I noticed was the sea theme to it, with the kind of rock formations, and definitely the landscape in the background. We've got the whole horizon and everything. That is something I noticed and didn't quite piece together why that was. So
yeah,
that's
yeah. It's really we have to work to make sure that everything was making sense with the narrative, because the narrative is obviously the strongest aspect of his game.
Okay, so you're saying it's pieced together from memories. Is there potential on the way as the game progresses that you could build up from familiar scenes that you've seen previously in the game, or is
no? It's just like it's constantly moving. So it's not like there is a specific geography, but it's every time it's a bit different. So yeah, so you will basically see places you find in the game, right. At some point, maybe later some other places, but it's also this idea of that this visual will serve the gameplay. So basically Sam got this memory visualization skill. That's a tough one. And his ability is to recreate scenes from the past and reconstruct the events to solve puzzles, basically. So what he do is like he's always traveling between his mind and the reality. So as an example, if we take this hotel room, he will wake up with no memories of what happened. So he have to explore the room, find some clues, and then he will test different hypotheses about what happened. Yes. And as a player, you have to put things in order and really look around to find clues and creating a scenario that makes sense. So, and when you succeed to do that, to find the right combination, you will be able to reconstruct really precisely what happened. So there is this sequence when you solve the puzzle where everything is getting back to what it was, and it's not more. It's still in the Mind Palace, but everything looks like really precise and how it was.
Yeah, so I remember that specifically. It was the going into the hotel rooms and looking at different objects that will spell out the path to you that you may have followed, and then going in the Mind Palace and seeing if they work together.
It's try and error.
Yeah,
but
a lot of error on my part.
But yeah, it's really designed to make the player think a bit about what to do, and make them like really resolving themselves the puzzle.
So on top of that, we know where you've got the style from, where you built the style from, and how it's implemented in the game, with some mechanics to that. From what we see in the demo between the Mind Palace and the hotel room, I'm taking in, further in the game, there's going to be other areas that you explore, street, different environments for you to explore outside of the Mind Palace in the real world. So, is there any kind of like touring to establish these places? What's the process of coming along with the different areas that you'd be exploring?
Oh, okay, right. So the process to creating this town, because it's really about the town of Basswood. So Basswood is set. It's a fictional town set in West Virginia. So what we have to do is a lot of research. At first, we had some idealized vision of what a US town looked like. As a French team, it was quite difficult, but it wasn't working very well. So at some point we say, okay, let's be serious 1 minute, and we have this. We have done lots of research on this place, on this history of West Virginia, and particularly the south of West Virginia, because this is where you find the coal mining industry. So this town is part of the Rust Belt. So that means at some time it was successful and it was quite a rich city, but at some point the industry left and the mine was closing. So it's really a town that is struggling for survival, and I think that's a really strong theme that will talk to a lot of people because they know this situation. And so what we've done is, gather lots of references. The fun fact is, like, our best tool to do that was to use Google Maps. Okay. So we've done a lot of
street view,
virtual driving, around West Virginia. Okay. So Basswood is a mashup of different towns and visual elements we find in this specific region. And I had to make sure that every reference that we gathered come from West Virginia and nowhere else in the United States, because we wanted to be the most respectful. My goal was really to, if a West Virginian player was playing that game and say, oh, I know that, that's where I live. Right. And the same goes for the characters. Characters were, at start there was like, again, idealized version of what a French team can provide, and we stopped that, and we gave us some references, and to try to be the most accurate. We are basically virtually buying clothes in some shops you can find there, like really standard things, and we got inspired by that. And then there was this ultimate test. I had a picture of a city city council meeting with all the inhabitants. You know, they do that a lot in the United States. But we have the mayor explaining what he's doing, and there was like 100 people there. Okay. And we were taking our characters and ask a question: does that character fit? Would it be there? Would it be credible? And I think we did well with that, because we have lots of variety of characters, and they are all different and interesting. So yeah, I think on that part, the main process and the main idea was to be the most accurate and respectful to the setting. In real life.
One thing I wanted to know, with reference to the character designs, because you've got your main character, but then you've got this kind of. I'm not sure how to describe him, like an alter ego sort of.
Oh, the double. We call it the double. The double. So yeah, that's.
He has a very interesting look.
Yeah, the process was interesting as well. because how to define him is an alter ego. It's his inner voice, and it reflects another aspect of personality of the hero, because the hero sees himself as a loser, basically. Okay. And this double, he created it when he was a kid, and it was Samuel's vision of what a successful man and a good-looking man were looking like. So starting from there, we first thing we are thinking about is to do a badass version of him, like I'm a lonely man on a lonely road, and this kind of stuff. But it wasn't working very well because it was implying that he was a bad person, but that's not the idea we wanted to do. So this double is more like a grey character. He's not bad or evil. Okay. It's just more exuberant parts and more confident parts of Sam that he don't show to the other people. So this is why we find at some point this look of preppy, posh thing, and we're like, that could work. And I think it's great because definitely it's an original character. I think it's a character that would be memorable for players.
Oh, definitely. Just specifically in the way he dresses.
Yeah.
It's a very snappy dresser.
It was. We tried so many things before, and when we see that, we say, that should work. And that makes sense as well because it's linked somehow to the past. So I can't talk too much about that, but it's strongly embedded with the narrative. It makes sense. So it's not something like double is quite interesting.
Okay. Oh, that sounds great. All right, so we better wrap it up. It's getting noisier in here, harder to hear. The Twin Mirror, that's coming to Xbox One, PS4, PC.
There will be 3 episodes, and the first one, which is called Lost on My Rover, will be available early 2019.
Early 2019,
yeah.
Excellent.
And we're back, and I've managed to drag in another couple of developers with me for a bit of small talk, because we're having some small talk about small talk. For this one, we've grabbed a couple of people from the Left Field collection, and they're the developers behind the game. Now, I'm not sure, what's the name of your game studio?
The Pale Room.
And is this your first game?
This is our first game.
Okay. And has that been an interesting experience, bringing your first game overseas to the UK and kind of going from there?
It has been, yeah. I mean, it's been a pretty wild ride. Just kind of, we're obviously trying to get it in front of as many people as we can. But it's been kind of crazy.
Flying in from all the way in the States and then coming extremely coming into the exhibition just dragging a marker across to just make up this giant title, and it's just been really crazy with no sleep. We were awake for 24 hours. So it's been kind of crazy.
Yeah, the jet lag on that going that way isn't so good. It works better for us going to you, and then we get the jet lag coming back. But
hopefully our return trip will be a little better.
It should be a bit smoother. So how did you get involved in putting your game forward for the Left Field collection? Because anyone doesn't know, it's a collection of interesting and kind of slightly out there games, usually things that are doing something slightly different or notable, and then you have to kind of apply to be one of those games. And so how did you end up applying for that?
Yeah, I think we saw it just kind of in the Twitter universe, and we saw some interesting things about it. Went and checked out some of the games from past years, and they all looked really cool and really kind of in the same kind of space as what we're making, same feel. So it seemed like it would be a really cool fit.
And so, how would you describe it in the kind of elevator pitch of what your game is, basically?
Yeah, Small Talk it's an interactive narrative game, and it splices 2D and 3D assets, and everything is hand drawn and hand animated. And you actually just go to a party at the end of the world, and you interact with these really surreal creatures from all over the place. And unlike the name, you end up kind of going into more depthy conversations with them, and then kind of actually get to find out more about their neuroses and their feelings of loneliness and doubt, and everything's about to end and it's just about to completely fall down, and this is what people will tell you. And then in some cases you're able to actually go inside of their minds to see what's actually going on. So, and that I didn't get that far into the demo, but does that kind of
sort of obviously give you the truth of what they're saying. It's not always, I'm guessing it's not always, exactly what they've told you.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like you get to see, like, a person will tell you one thing, but then you go inside and you see, okay, there's some inner workings. There's other things going on. So.
Yeah, and kind of, as you go into the party and as you agree, it is basically saying, the end of the world's happening. It's slightly odd circumstances this evening, but try not to mention it to anyone.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, don't bum anybody out. Yeah. Just like kind of go about your business. Like, have a good time here, and everyone's kind of still talking about it. And, so,
and I think, do you think that the topic alone and the narrative side of it would be enough to identify it as something for the left field collection? Because I'll come on to the art, and I think that's worth talking about in a second. But do you think just the narrative side is enough to kind of make it its a slightly different thing and something unique?
I think so. I think that like it delves into things that are kind of difficult to talk about, and it's kind of things that like people don't really mention. Just and that I think in itself is kind of makes it the oddball, and it kind of puts it out. And it's like, oh well, you want to talk about like depression or something bothering you. Like one of the characters talks about getting a train ticket too late. They wanted to finally leave this place, and and now the world's ending, and they were gonna do it, and they didn't end up doing it, and so they're talking to you about this, in which you actually end up going inside their mind and actually traversing this train to actually see kind of like what was going on in their head. But I think that was definitely,
and there definitely seems to be a lot of deeper thought to some almost throwaway comments of what people are saying, type of thing. There does seem to be that you're concentrating on the psychology of what's going on in people's heads, even when you're not necessarily seeing that in the game.
Yeah, and we do a little bit try to incorporate that in some of the mechanics as well. Like as you just mentioned with the person having some anxiety and going on this train, and they have a feeling of sort of aimlessness, and so we tried to incorporate that with like the train itself. When you're on that, then it's not a straightforward train. Like if you were going forward and backwards, you would get a little lost, and the cars get jumbled up, and you're not quite matching reality in that way.
Let's move on to the art as well. As I kind of mentioned to you guys a minute ago, I always have a bit of time for any game where you can immediately identify the game from a single screenshot taken anywhere throughout the game type thing. And I think that's something that can definitely be said of your game. How would you describe it, though? That's one thing I'm having difficulty actually trying to describe that visual style to. You said about the whole 2D, 3D aspect and the hand-drawn nature, but that doesn't convey everything about it, I don't think.
Sure. Right? I mean, yeah, you have these surreal characters. It has this, like, boiled line look. And all the animated frames, so it's hand-animated. It's got this sketchy red line that outlines the whole world, essentially. And so you just go up, and they still have kind of human properties to them. They're still standing around drinking and drinking out of cups and stuff, and then they just have something off, and their colors are vibrant, and they kind of come out from this like white background. So it's just very like visually, it just like sets the characters like pretty much pop off the background immediately.
And what was there an influence for that art style? Is there something that led you to that kind of look?
I would say it's an art style that I've had even before Small Talk. I've been working on GIF animation and animation of that, and I posted on Twitter and Instagram, and it's just kind of this red line look that I've kind of as trademarked as like something I feel comfortable in. Right. It's kind of like the awareness. It's really like bright and saturated, and it kind of gets your attention. And you typically think like all lines have to be like black or blue or something like that, and it's like no, like we're gonna do something a little bit different. Like just change it just slightly and see what happens.
And is there something that you think you've based the kind of mechanics of the game more on that's influenced you in that way then? If nothing's particularly influenced you on the artwork side of it?
I think mechanic wise, like it's like we wanted to make a 3D game, but we don't really have any like 3D skills. So like pretty much I was like, oh, I'm a 2D artist and I like hand animating, so like we're just gonna go forward and try and make this like billboarded world, and you have to kind of match mechanics based on that. I think a lot of the time. So like that was kind of an influence before, and then we kind of went into it, like the first person part of it.
There's some light sort of game trope mechanics in there, like a little bit of platforming, but everything is scaled back. It's not, nothing is supposed to be a huge challenge of like. Where the goal is, it's going to be very difficult to achieve this. So.
Yeah, so you're not putting barriers to entry in terms of that. I guess some of the barriers you might have are sort of the kind of darker aspect of it, and I'm not sure that would necessarily. I really like it, and I think it works really well for what it was. I'm not sort of putting it down, but I think that might be something that some people might find difficult to tune into.
Yeah,
I think that was very much on purpose, though. It's like I think that like having like this really like aesthetically pleasing veneer, and you kind of drawn to it. Oh, these crazy characters! What's this fun, happy-go-lucky game going to be about? And then you sit down, and then it's almost like it's like a trick.
Yeah,
and you're in that
surprise.
Surprise! You're thinking about life and all the things you should have done. Like I like that. Maybe I'm just a bit macabre.
But no, I mean, like it really doesn't take you very long to go. Oh, this is much darker than
totally.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's good. We want that.
And not quite in the same way, and not quite in the same manner, but it's almost akin for me to like South Park. Like it's very simple animation style that makes you curious, and then this is much darker than it looks. This is not the kid-friendly thing I thought it was going in. Almost kind of.
In terms of the hand-drawn animation style, is that over 3D objects or like outline 3D objects, or is it just purely a 2D perspective that makes it look like 3D?
So like a lot of it's billboarded 2D, like just sprites.
Okay.
So the sprites will always turn to face you, so that way you never get kind of behind it.
Yeah, there are a few 3D objects in the world, but for the most part, they're just flat planes that will face you.
That's very well done. I was trying to work it out, and my brain couldn't quite fathom what was going on.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it's awesome because we're like, I hope this reads, and we kind of lean into the billboarding part of it too. We're just like the game's very aware that it still has 2D stuff. It's not trying to like go create these crazy 3D worlds of intricate things.
But I think, as you said, you were kind of limited by your skill set type of thing. But I think you have done very well within those limitations to find something that gives it a unique look and a unique feel to it as well, basically. And I think that's to the game's credit now, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think we definitely like benefited from like having those limitations on us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we like working within constraints because then it's like you can just kind of blow away all these kind of like ideas and they come up and stuff like this. So.
Yeah. It does seem like you can get a lot more creative when you have a lot of rules and artificially imposed.
And so what influenced you in the first place to go down this path of making this game and with this kind of subject matter and stuff?
I guess like Chris and I have worked together before, and so we work really well, and so we both like the same kind of themes in literature, and like both like David Foster Wallace and authors like that, and we're like, hey, like let's make a game that's we just wanted it was Small Talk was such a small project, and it of course like the explosive thing that happens with games, and you're like, oh no, scope, what happened? and like pretty much just we worked on a couple things and we kept adding and adding to it, and it was kind of like it came from that part.
And then how many other people are working on it? Is it just you two, or?
We also have an audio designer, Emily May.
Right, yeah.
She's back in Austin.
Okay.
She's great.
She's great.
That seems to be often the way that you get the kind of artist and someone else, kind of. What's your actual?
Mostly programming.
On the programming side. So programmer, artist, and audio. That seems to be the golden three for having a small indie studio these days. As long as you got one person that can do all those skills, then you should be okay to build a game, basically. And so what's the plan with the games from here? Like you're showing the game here. I assume you've had good feedback over the weekend, and it's been a good experience.
Yeah, it's been really great. I think is this our 5th conference?
Roughly.
So about our 5th conference. We have Indicated Europe next.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of going to get the ball rolling on getting it completed, and it's going to be out early next year. So.
Early next year, basically. Yeah. And do you know platforms yet, or are you sort of still?
Well, definitely Windows, Mac, and Linux, and that's kind of our thought right now. And we'll explore the other side
after that, basically.
Yeah, maybe some console stuff.
Well, everyone wants a Switch version. Yeah, that should be good.
Everyone's piling on Switch.
But all good. All that you'll be a nindy soon, basically. But then, so what's that been like for you? You said you've had a few other cons, so this isn't the first kind of time that you've had feedback. But how has coming to the UK been different from doing other things, and how has EGX been a sort of different event for you? How's that been as an experience?
Yeah, I think Yeah, EGX. It's interesting because like they're just showing. We've shown several conferences in the US, and like just like all my friends in indie games, like the culture's like entirely different. Like just like the subcultures are just very much like all the different people to know and all these different friends. And you come over here and it's like just an entirely clean slate, and it's just like all the different studios and stuff that you haven't heard of. So it's just like you just kind of I don't know. It's exciting. So
I mean, even just with the people that we've met around left field stuff, everyone has been very welcoming and wonderful, and it's been a great experience. Yeah.
Well, basically, we were recommended onto you for other people in the left field collection. So that that speaks volumes to that.
No, I definitely feel at home. Like it's like I've made so many friends already here, and I just want to make more. You know what I mean? Like,
you said about it's an entirely new thing to see and stuff like that. And have you had much chance to see other games around you as well and other things, or have you been solely concentrating on your stand? I know it's difficult when there's only a couple of you and you've got a stand to do for all 4 days, basically. But
yeah, I mean, all of the games, at the very least, all the games in the left field collection have been great. We've gone out, we've seen Collage Atlas was out in kind of the what was that, Tentacle area? That's a beautiful looking game. So yeah, I mean, it's actually been really energizing to see all of the innovative stuff that's happening. So that's been a lot of fun.
I guess there's also a lot of like just having an in left field too. It's just like you have all these different kinds of games. Like there's one on a CRT TV, and it's just like you get to play it, and it's like these like, you switch the channels with buttons, and it's like you kind of tune into this radio, and it's really visceral, really like physical, and I like that a lot. And there's like that, and there's like Hypnospace, which is like another like kind of throwback to a 90s era, early 90s computer desktop with like a Winamp skins and stuff. Yeah, it's really great. So.
Well, there's a game that we saw here a few years ago called Line Wobbler, basically. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a 1D dungeon crawler, basically, is how they describe it. It's a line of LEDs and you've got...
we had seen that one actually in America, and it's a really cool installation.
And basically there's a museum here, the V&A, basically. Usually does
Marie
like
Foster's
kind of
over there.
But they've got a video game exhibition at the moment, and that is installed in the exhibition. It's really nice to see something having gone from being in the left field collection to now being a museum exhibition. That's
especially weird. Like, I remember being here one year and playing this silly little game made with a strip light and the thing you put on the wall to stop the door slams. Wobble, I guess. And it's now in the V&A. It's very strange.
It's great. It's great to have like video games in more arty environments.
And more kind of mainstream things.
Mainstream things. It just shows people that games aren't all about like shooting people and things like that. So.
Yeah, and they tend to be the big headline games and stuff like that. But then that's why I think it seems to be nice that events like EGX are embracing the kind of the indie games more and more, and that kind of growing. I actually think Rezzed, which is a much smaller scale show that they do in London still, basically is almost exclusively indie games. Not quite.
It's about 85% indies. And then as well, that's linked in with the BAFTA Game Awards, and they very heavily focus on the indies outwards of that as well. Their own sections.
But then, that's something where, that's one of my favourite events of the year, basically, just because it's all indie game designers, and we get to speak to the people that actually made the games, like yourselves, and that's always nice to be able to connect directly with those. Whereas in the bigger games, you get to meet someone that may not even be a gamer.
Right?
Basically showing you to a seat, and that's
totally. It definitely feels more personal in indie. I like that feeling a lot. Like you're able to just like talk to anybody, like walk up and be like, "Hey, there's the dev. Like, tell me why did you make this game?" It's pretty great.
Yeah, and I noticed the thing that I hadn't really seen in previous years. I don't know if this is something that is more prevalent in America. Maybe it's something they picked up from there. But a lot of the developers this year actually have the word "dev" on the back of their t-shirts or on their arm of their t-shirts and stuff like that. Basically, that's they're obviously kind of proud of that and like pushing the fact that they are there and that is the dev of the game. And I quite
come
like
talk
that.
To me, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's nice to be open. And sort of see that stuff. But I guess it's always good for you to see people actually sitting down, playing through, and enjoying your game. Basically, that's got to be a nice experience. No?
It feels nice, and it's also, it's very useful too. Because as we're continuing to work on it, it's nice to see how people play it and how they experience it. So
we just had a few guests on before, but literally what I was saying is the fact that it's not just people playing your game and you getting the feedback on it, it's also, you don't have to interpret that feedback because you can see something that they may not be able to pick up on.
Totally.
So,
Playtesting is great. So these environments are good in all ways.
Yeah, and you get a good variety of people playtesting as well. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Just remind people where they might be able to get hold of your game in the future and where to look out for it, basically.
Yeah, I'm Gabrielle Genevieve and at Alora Datura on Twitter.
Yeah. Our game URL is paleroom.itch.io/small-talk. Yeah, you can find it there. There's more information.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, we look forward to the release of the game, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm here with two lovely gentlemen from the video game 1111 Memories Retold, which I've been able to play previously before trying out EGX, where it's available right now. Guys, if you'd like to introduce yourself real quick.
I'm Bram Tween, the art director for 1111 and Aardman.
George Rowe, producer of 1111 at Aardman too.
Okay, so Aardman, I know that word very well, most of my childhood in fact. So how did you get involved in this project?
So, I mean, obviously this isn't quite what Aardman's known for. You know, people most know the stop motion films that we do, but Aardman actually do like a whole host of different stuff. We've had an interactive department where we've been making games for about 10 years or so. Started off making like little flash games and that, and then sort of expanded to mobile games and other stuff like that. And this kind of level of game is something we always wanted to do. You know, it's a department for people who are gamers, who love gaming, but we'd never had the chance to work on something of this scale. But then one of our creative directors met Johan Fenies, who's the director of our co-producer company, EGX. Met them at Games for Change conference about 3 years ago now. And they sort of started talking about, you know, games which are meaningful and do more than just entertain. And then also Jake, the creative director from Aardman, was there, like how he loved Valiant Hearts. And they started talking about, it'd be great to kind of bring our two companies together, you know, Aardman doing art and animation, Johan's company doing the kind of game design and things. And it kind of just ended up kicking around this idea for a year or so about another World War I game. And then fast forward a few years and now here we are.
Okay, because I definitely got the idea, the comparisons between Valiant Hearts and this game playing through World War I game, the contrasting stories between two different characters. You've got one who's a Canadian photographer and the other one who's a German engineer looking for a son. And then also there's an animal involved. So
there's two animals actually. Two animals. There's one animal in the demo. There's two animals, so they both have like kind of an animal familiar that you sort of meet through the game, and that kind of you get to play them as a character, but they also kind of symbolise the relationship each character has with each other. So you'll see from what kind of happens to the animals kind of reflects what's going on with the characters at the time. Okay.
Now the whole style of the game, it's done in this very beautiful hand-painted style, which looks, in my uneducated mind, looks like kind of interlaced over 3D modelling. Is that?
Yeah, it's quite an unusual approach. We were trying to mimic an oil on glass animation technique where you literally paint a painting on a sheet of glass, then paint the next frame over that painting. So that's the technique we were trying to mimic. Obviously, you have to be a bit careful with real-time renderers.
Yes.
So we sort of focused in on some of the quirks and peculiarities of that particular animation technique, and it all sort of evolved from there. But it seemed like a nice way to accompany the narrative because it has a very sort of subjective feel.
So is that a very early on idea? Did the art come before the game, or?
It kind of was there for a bit from the start. So Johan, I think, had the idea of it being a living painting kind of from the beginning when we were originally talking about it. But then we showed him a piece that Aardman made previously called Flight of the Stories, which was a short film for the Imperial War Museum, which was done quite a few years ago, which again had a kind of painted style. And we showed him that and he was like, yeah, that's what we want to do. But I think when Bram came on board, you tried out a few different other styles first, didn't you?
Yeah, because there's quite a lot of art movements started around that early part of the century, and it seemed quite fitting to me to perhaps experiment with some futurism or cubism or things like that. But then it sort of became apparent that they weren't quite as sympathetic to the more sort of subtle elements of the narrative we were trying to tell. They're quite brutal, most of the modernist styles. So we decided to plumb for this softer, more painterly feel.
Okay, yeah, and it is a very striking art style. When initially I saw this game, it was a couple of weeks ago in fact, and kind of toured around different games, and that was immediately the one that caught my eye that I didn't really know much about going in. So I think the most I'd seen about this game previously had been Dev Diaries, and then I hadn't seen a trailer of the gameplay. I'd seen the game, and it's incredibly eye-catching. So good job in that department.
I mean, I think we wanted to try and do, as I said, Aardman known for stop motion, but kind of something that runs through all of Aardman's work is that feeling of it being handcrafted, hand-created. And we felt with this style it still had that Aardman feeling, if it's like a living painting, very much still a human-crafted process. So it's important for us, I think, to keep something that had that kind of Aardman feel to it in that way.
Okay. So I mentioned the duality between the two different contrasting characters. You've got one who's a photographer from Canada, very young, enlists in the war to essentially impress a girl, and then the other one being a much older gentleman from Germany who's an engineer working on blimps initially, I believe. Zeppelins. And then he enlisted in the army to find his missing son, who I'm assuming is enlisted in the army also. So the idea of where the idea for this this scenario of the two characters being so different, essentially.
Well, I mean, I think we always, and from Johan's early ideas, the story was about seeing something from seeing one event from two different sides, and by having a sort of a Canadian guy who's a bit removed from the war, is young and he's kind of removed from everything, doesn't really understand the world. Exactly, yeah. So we have that one point of view versus this kind of older, not like world weary, but kind of stoical older character who, has a very set idea of how the world works and everything like that. And it's about contrasting those two different viewpoints around a single thing. So I think from the start we really wanted to sort of tell one story in two different ways. And by playing as both characters and the animals, you kind of get to experience it in a way that you wouldn't if it was just one point of view.
Okay. And you mentioned the animals. So I saw the cat that's appeared in the game. Why?
I think it was an idea from Johan again originally that to a cat, war doesn't mean anything, and he wanted to have another point of view that again was totally removed from the idea of war. So a cat can go from the front line on one side to the front line on the other side through no man's land with impunity, and it doesn't understand what's going on. And it's about showing a little bit about going, well, this is ridiculous. What is war really to this being? It means nothing at all. So partly that, and then we wanted to have that extra, both light and dark. A story about war can be dark and a little bit depressing in some places, but you need to have that lightness to be able to appreciate the darker side of the story. So playing as the animal companions, you get a little bit of sort of lighter relief to the story sometimes, a bit more playful moments than you would with just getting the human view of it.
Yeah, that definitely came across the lighter elements with the cat play, especially with the background music, and just everything seems a bit brighter, even though if you concentrate, potentially atrocities going on around you, you're not aware of what's happening there. That'd be more of a music design thing, I guess, but trying to think of other ways. What other ways with the music design?
Well, I mean, you worked very closely with Olivier, the composer, really, didn't you?
Yeah, there was very early on in the art style, we decided to assign signature colours to the two characters, and Olivier, the composer, he also did that with the music, basically. So it informs lots of the creative decisions, both art-wise and musically throughout the game. It's the way those two themes interplay with each other. So they start off here and here, and as the story progresses, they weave together and occasionally diverge and reconvene. So.
All right. Well, we've got a gameplay video of 1111 Memories Retold. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link in the video at the end of this. But thank you guys. This has been great.
Very nice to meet you.
So 1111 Memories Retold, that is coming to PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and that's in November?
November the 9th. Good memory.
All right. Thank you guys.
Nice. Thanks very much. Cool.
Right, and we are back with part 3 of our EGX special, and I've managed to drag another couple of special guests in with me. And if you'd just like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, my name's Matt. I'm director of Big Evil Corporation, which is a studio making brand new games for classic consoles.
And we will definitely come back to that in a second, because that's very interesting. And Would you just like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Karina. I'm working with the other Tales Interactive on Tick-Tock A Tale for Two over on the Left Field Collection.
Now, that's a bit of a mouthful. I keep remembering the Tick-Tock bit and then not the bit that goes after it, but the bit that goes after it should probably make more sense in terms of the style of game it is as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a co-op only adventure game. So if you think of Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes, but as a point-and-click adventure, I also kind of liken it to an escape room. So a lot of the people here aren't necessarily hardcore gamers, and they really respond to that. So that's how we've been positioning it with people.
Well, you say cooperative, and I think almost the phrase cooperative is almost misused in its most common form for a lot of video games, because often you are just fighting alongside someone. You're not really cooperating. You know what I mean? Like, fighting together is not a form of cooperation necessarily, but this is actually a cooperative game where you have to not only communicate what you can both see, but communicate what you can't see, because there's information that's only available to one person on one screen, basically.
Yeah, so what we say is that you don't have the full picture, so it's purely co-op in that the game is designed to be only played with apart from each other. So you have different information on each screen. You have to use the information on your individual screens to solve puzzles collectively. So you do need to talk about what you can see. The game's been really cleverly designed so that it's very easy to explain. But the puzzles are pretty tricky, and I think they've done some really special things with level design as well to kind of really test your communication skills. We've seen a few people give up, argue over the weekend, but we've seen a lot of people get through it in pretty good times. So,
I've seen a couple stand still on one computer and then get confused and then go away.
That's why we're on the stand, because it's like, why can't I solve anything? Oh, I can only see half of the game.
But I mean, did you think that's what made it particularly suitable for Left Field? That Left Field literally comes out of left field a bit. They tend to be slightly more quirky things that are doing things a bit more different. But is that you think that gives it enough to separate it aside from what you'd normally see, basically?
Yeah, I think it was at PAX a couple of weeks ago, and I think we've seen some really good reception to it, mainly because it's a lot less stressful than some of the other games that use a similar mechanic, but we're also cross-platform because it's not networked. So basically, you need to have individual units. You only play, if you buy the game, you can only play one side of it. So you need to get 2 copies, which we're working on bundling and other things. It's not out till February, so we're still kind of working that problem out.
Pricing
bug is not bug, is a problem. But because of that, it means that without the networking, we can be cross-platform naturally.
Right.
So it's on Nintendo Switch, mobiles, and PC, which means that, say, your mum has a mobile device and she likes puzzle games, you could be playing on your PC on Steam.
Right.
But as long as you can talk together, either in the same room or over Discord or Skype or something like that, then you can play. So it kind of limits, it kind of opens it up to more people.
And at the beginning of the game, you have to literally make sure that one person is player 1 and one person is player 2, so you're getting those two.
And it does tell you to make sure, but some people...
And sort of moving across to the other side of the Left collection as well, we talk about doing things differently. I think it's definitely separates you a little bit and makes you very different to be making new Mega Drive games in 2018, no?
It certainly belongs in the Left Field collection. I should have to explain why.
But I mean, if anyone that didn't see, I actually played your game Tanglewood at Develop and spoke about it on the podcast afterwards, because it's an interesting story behind it, the fact that you're making a Mega Drive version of the game. Why did you decide to go down that route?
It's something I wanted to do since I was a kid. I grew up programming on the Commodore 64, playing games on the Mega Drive, and I think since I was a child, I dreamed of seeing my own Mega Drive game on a Blockbuster shelf. And I guess I just didn't grow up.
I think you might be a bit late for the Blockbuster shelf, I'm afraid. That's one thing that might have gone by the wayside. Okay, get it in there.
There's still one in the States. One of my aims is to get it on that shelf.
Are you going to take a trip just to the States just to go and get that picture?
Put that down as business expenses.
But you do have plans for the kind of the software of the game beyond the Mega Drive as well. I think you're And I know it's only bringing it a few years more up to date, but you're planning on porting it to the Dreamcast next, I believe.
Yes, indeed. I've got a rule: I'll only port it to a platform if I've got original development hardware for it.
Right,
So
okay.
I managed to find a Dreamcast dev kit. I'm going to port it to the Dreamcast. That's how it works.
Okay, fine. So you're going with that. But then, yeah, that's one of the things that you've had on display as well. The fact that you've got the original Mega Drive dev kit that you're working from and stuff like that. And I believe you're saying that's one of the only two that you know of in the world that's currently
one of the
working?
only two working that I know of. Complete units. The kit we've got out on the shop floor is only half of the thing. It's just running in retail mode just at the show. But you need a Windows 95 PC to go with it, with ISO cards fitted in. There's all sorts of cables and modules and stuff that plugs into it for it all to work. So I've only seen two of those complete working units with cables and discs and manuals and things. Occasionally bits and pieces pop up on eBay, things like that, but yeah, as far as I know, the only two working in the world at the moment.
Does that mean you have to be part hardware engineer as well as a software engineer now then?
I wish that would really help. It takes a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails when it breaks down to try and get it working again. Cause, I know a little bit of electronics, but not enough to dig deep enough to fix it when it goes wrong. So thankfully I've got some people who have got my back.
No, other people you can rely on for that sort of thing. Okay, cool.
Okay, so I was imaging one lonely representative in Sega answering the phone.
the one left. Not had a sales call.
There's two working consoles out there still. We got to be ready.
Like 71-year-old guy who just refuses to retire, still comes into the office.
There's some sort of bat phone in the middle.
A hotline to things. But what's your plans for the kind of software side of things beyond that? Are you going to move on from the Dreamcast as well to kind of other
mostly out of necessity. I need to, because obviously I want to make another game. I want to keep doing this, but I need to make profit at some point to be able to afford the next game, and I'm not going to make profit making Mega Drive games alone. So it's already out on Steam. There's an emulated version for Windows, Mac, and Linux. This Dreamcast port is making a lot of noise, and lots of people seem to want it on Switch. So we've started talking to publishers about Switch. My heart lies with the PS4, so I'm going to try and get it on PS4 as well, and Xbox One by extension, I guess. But I'm hoping that will afford us a second game.
I can see it landing really nicely on Switch, especially if you can somehow kind of convey the message of where it's come from a bit as well. You know, the fact that it was programmed as a Mega Drive game. And as I said to you, and I think it's possibly the best compliment I could pay, is it feels like a lost Mega Drive game. It feels like a game that I should have discovered, 25 years ago.
That was the point where I was trying to make, and I'm glad that came through.
Cool. Well, that's good to see as well. And what for the both of you, question to both of you, what do you think sort of defines a left field collection game, and what do you think makes the games that you're representing a left field collection game?
I don't know what defines a left field collection game. They're so eclectic. And I think that's the joy of that area. It's very different, and it allows for things, like your game, just a little bit broader. You have a lot of experimental custom controller setups, games that wouldn't necessarily get the attention otherwise. Much more heartfelt games as well, like passion projects like yours. And
I think it's got to be. You said about the hardware side of things, but I think even when it's not doing something unique with hardware, it's doing something fairly different and unique. It's either got a unique mechanic or a unique piece of hardware that kind of ties into the gameplay type thing.
I think it's something that turns heads and make it into the collection. If you walk through the left field collection, you'll look to one side and there's somebody set up a small fake hotel room for their game with a CRT TV in the middle. You walk on, there's a guy shredding books, physically shredding books. Like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Every game you look at, you'll get whiplash turning your neck to what on earth is going on here.
There's something for everyone there. You've got brilliant games for kids, like Amazing Frogs, just getting so much traction because it's all over Twitch right now, right? And you just see small children just like cackling with joy playing it. And then you have other things like Small Talk, who you spoke to earlier, much more personal, passionate, very, very heartfelt, difficult subjects as well. So it's much more thoughtful. They do a really good job of curating that space and making it really interesting for everybody.
Yeah, it's always one of my favourite things to go to because like you never know what to kind of expect. Some things are quite quirky and like, okay, I didn't expect that, and even that's like quite a nice reaction. But then some things you'll discover, like, you know, as I said, a lost Mega Drive game or an actual co-op game that makes you realise that the definition of co-op games for 20 years has been wrong. You know, and just like something that makes you look and think of video games in a slightly different way. But yeah, and I think,
sometimes you find a man in a tiger onesie.
Yeah. But yeah, it's always, as I said, it's always a nice surprise and kind of an eclectic journey in a short amount of space. And there's something that I really pulled towards the Left Field collection. Obviously, like the guests that we've had on this year have been kind of Left Field collection centric, but I think that's something that speaks to the slight changing nature of the event overall. That does seem to be a bit more indie focused these days. And just, like, I think that's the things that kind of, I don't know, feel more joyful and kind of more celebratory of video games than your big bombastic AAA games. You've got these, as you say, passion projects and things where you can really see that the passion of the individuals that have worked on the game has come through the game. And I'm not necessarily saying that doesn't happen with all AAA projects, but there's something very nice and personable about everything in like the Left Field collection and by extension a lot of the other kind of indie games here.
I think one of the other things with Left Field is because it's kind of a competition in a way. Like you know, loads of people apply.
Yeah.
But it's a free space, and some of the developers that are featured there might not necessarily have budgets for stands. So having a space like that sponsored, you know, Sega actually sponsors it, which is, you know, really nice of them to do because it allows developers who wouldn't necessarily have the funds or the opportunity to come to show something really special. It's great. It's such a nice addition to the show floor.
Yeah, and we should have thought with Sega sponsoring it, I'm guessing you were a shoo-in to get a PlayStation.
They have absolutely. I don't think they have any clout other than the fact that they sponsor it.
Well, imagine anyone that was going, we're sponsored by Sega when we have a Mega Drive game. I think these two things have to go together, basically.
I love the fact that Sega directly or indirectly contributed something towards this.
Definitely.
I'll enjoy that.
Well, presumably they made your original dev kit somewhere along the way as well, basically. So.
Yeah, I guess so.
So what you're saying is to get a shoe into the Left Field, I just need to make that Mega CD game finally.
Yes.
32X.
Yeah. Well, I believe you said you actually got a 32X dev kit as well.
Yeah, I've got quite a collection at the moment. I've got original Genesis kit, I've got Mega CD, 32X, Saturn, Dreamcast.
Definitely Sega focused.
Non-Sega ones as well.
Okay. A lot of cables to go with it.
The power supplies are the pain. Blow quite often.
Yeah, it's your. Like, have you just got a room that's just filled with
rooms, several rooms.
Several rooms.
I've just started moving the company to an office as well. And the first thing I went was all the dev hardware, and I keep finding things I've forgotten. I know it's like mystery boxes. One is okay, that was a drunken eBay night.
You should set up some sort of developer workshop museum type thing where people can come and actually pay to use the hardware to develop games. And, you know, that type of thing.
Well, the National Video Game Arcade in Nottingham has hosted my game, and they're moving to Sheffield soon. I was hoping to have some of my hardware on display there for people to see.
Get a little room.
I also ran a Mega Drive coding workshop at the NBA last year.
Okay.
I'm hoping to do that again if they'll agree to it.
Yeah, because I said, you know, it's a fairly unique thing and it's not something I've come across before, but I have heard in the States that there are people making cartridges again for, I think SNES is more common in the States that they're selling and stuff over there. They did a run of Street Fighter 2 again, I think, basically.
There's quite a few Kickstarters as well.
Yeah. And I believe your original project was through Kickstarter as well, was
it was end of 2016.
Okay, cool. And has that been... If you were going to do a similar project again, would you take it to Kickstarter again, or would you prefer to go with a sort of either self-funding route or kind of, you know, partnership with someone else, or how would you look to do that?
It depends. I see Kickstarter as a necessity thing. If I can afford to do it on my own, I really should do it on my own. Kickstarter is for the people who can't, basically. I mean, as the title suggests, kickstart your your
Yeah.
studio, and if it's already kickstarted, should I be really be going back to Kickstarter?
Yeah, well, it seems that more people should possibly take that attitude than they actually do. Join AAA indie studios, and
I mean, obviously, it depends if we make enough money to make the next game. If we don't, then we're going to have to look at crowdfunding again.
But yeah, I imagine when it's something that's such a passion project, and there is like a lot of stuff behind it, that you need some, especially when you're doing it for the first time, you needed a bit of financial support just to show that there was the interest as well as the actually the finance.
Kickstarter in itself is market research. If your game makes it, you have enough people interested to make it a viable option.
Cool. And right, so let's talk about availability and platforms and stuff like that. So Tick-Tock when's that available? How's that available? And when can people get their hands on it?
So Tick-Tock Hotel for 2 is coming out in February. We haven't got a set date, but February's the window. We are hoping to do a beta at some point. Closed or open, we haven't decided, but we definitely need to test some more puzzles, which is what's great about this show. But it's coming to Nintendo Switch, PC, and mobile devices, Android and iOS at the same time.
Yeah, and you said February. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad suggestion to suggest going for Valentine's Day because I don't know.
Before.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to help relationships or possibly ruin them.
Hopefully help.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Or at least test the strength before.
And Tanglewood, is Tanglewood generally available to people?
Yes.
I think you were saying you were doing another run of the cartridges soon as well.
At the moment it's available now on Steam for Windows, Mac, and Linux. That also comes with the Mega Drive ROM file. So if you want to play that on an emulator, or if you've got an EverDrive cartridge for your Mega Drive, you can shove it on that. The cartridges are coming soon. We've got an initial run of 1,000 for the Kickstarter backers and the early pre-orderers, and we're doing them in batches. So batch 2 we're going to arrange soon.
Okay, cool, brilliant. Well, thanks very much for your time today, guys. And one other thing just before we go, have you had a chance to see any other games that are around the show and anything of interest that has really kind of piqued your interest? Or
the one thing I'm really interested to see is Untitled Goose Game. But it's at the Nintendo stand, so the queues are massive for it. If I've got time before we have to pack up, I really want to play that.
Everyone seems really, really interested in the basic premise of being a goose that's just a dick to everyone else in the village.
Yeah, I played it at a maze in Berlin, and it was joyous. It's just being a jerk to a farmer.
Yeah, you're the goose you always wanted to be.
We've all got an inner goose in us somewhere.
I've spent a lot of time in the left field, and I'm really into Sticky Cats. I don't know if you've played that.
I've seen it. I haven't.
God, it's just so joyous.
It looks
so funny. It's hectic as hell. That's a competitive multiplayer title, but it's just the art style. Everything about it is really charming, and it's just really fun. I'm all about. I do love just fun games. Sometimes it's perfect for me. Yeah.
MaoMao Castle's here as well.
Sorry?
Yes.
MaoMao Castle's one of my favourites. It only really works at shows though, because you need the guy in the tiger ones who's shouting at you while you play it, so it's just not the same.
And dancing.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever seen it on a TV as well. It's always on a projector. Even when it's a small projector, still projecting.
See, that was good because there was a small kid playing before me, so I was waiting behind him, and then his mum was talking to the developer, and he's going, "So you're going to play next, are you?" She's like, "No, games aren't for me. I don't play games." He goes, "Well, do you like exciting things? Do you like fun things?" So he keeps doing this. It's like, "No, I'm not going to play this game." And then he's like, "Oh, your turn." I go, "Well, I believe this woman wanted to play this." And it's very easy to pick up and mess around.
We've had a lot of mums playing Tick-Tock because I think games like The Room have really opened up kind of adventure puzzles to women. Yeah, it's brilliant. And we're kind of talking to mums while the kids are playing Amazing Frog, and then they suddenly jumped on and they're like, "Oh, it's on mobile," because they're all mobile games, right? So it's been really nice to have that side of the gaming audience here as well.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. We were talking about doing a capture on maybe one on the Switch and one on Android or something.
Right.
So putting a screen type thing. I think that'd be a nice one to get angry at each other over.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a good one to get drunk on, but might be.
No,
see what happens.
We've got to beat our 17 minutes.
thank you very much for joining us today. And I hope you have a good rest of your show. Not too much of it left. You're nearly there, nearly at the end. And we're nearly at the end of our special as well. So thank you very much for everyone joining us. We'll come back with a few more roundup stuffs in a bit. But thank you very much to you guys. And we'll hopefully get caught up on both of your games soon.
Away from the echoey podcast room and the very deafeningly loud press room, we are back in the normal recording setting. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Hello. We're back from EGX after a long night and a longer day. A
long weekend. Well, for you particularly.
So if you've made it this far, I think they're very interesting interviews and definitely very interesting guests that we've had on. The audio has not been great, and that is just fault of acoustics, essentially. There's nothing we could have done about that. But we're back to normal, and we're going to talk about the games we done played, EGX edition, special edition. So, Tim.
Yes.
How we were doing this? Are we going to talk about the games we both played?
I think that's it. Yeah, let's do that, because then we can both give opinions on those, and then we can kind of dig into the other ones. Okay. So, well, where do you want to start? Should we go with...
Let's just go in the order that's on the list.
In the order that's here. So Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one that we both jumped into, I believe on Sunday, I think. It was one we realised that neither of us had played, so we thought we'd make a beeline for it Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And got in there nice and early. I think we were the first two people in the queue.
There was a guy ahead of us, but people that were with him behind us, so he ended up going behind us.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
First, we don't get to say that ever, because people say that to us all the time. Anyway, but that's dull. But I don't know about you. I was a bit generally tepid on the whole Assassin's Creed franchise at the moment. I was once, just brief history, loved the first one, fallen in and out of the series generally over the years. I think I had access through your copy of the last one, Mr. Coleman, and I think I may have played more of it than you did, possibly.
I haven't started it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I've only played the opening sort of 6 to 8 hours or so, I'd say, possibly. But I liked it. I just didn't, I sort of bounced off it, came away, and never went back to it, sort of thing. This got me more interested, I have to say. Like, it was mainly, and I don't know if the whole demo was necessarily focused this way, or once you'd gone down this path, it kind of kept you on it, but it was mainly combat focused, and I actually enjoyed the combat. I find it challenging and hard, but in a interesting way.
Yeah, so the kind of problem I have with Assassin's Creed at the moment, I did find the games were getting very samey. There are a few of them that I just didn't finish playing, and I kind of dropped off on Syndicate, not because Syndicate was bad, but because it was the same gameplay that I'd had before, and I was at the same time enjoying it, but too many games are coming out around that time, and it's been put on the back burner. I picked up Origins.
Yeah.
And haven't started it because I keep telling myself it's such a different game from the games we're used to that I wanted to make sure I finished those previous games before I went to this, and I still haven't got around to doing that.
That's a dangerous path to set for yourself.
Yeah, so Odyssey is the first one that I've played in this new style, and the demo we were given is you get given a very small area. And you can go up and talk to someone, and then the battle will begin.
Yeah, it kicks off the battle.
Someone next to me was playing a sea battle.
Okay.
So they were on a ship, and they were fighting other ships.
Yeah, we didn't see that.
I believe the way they did that is they picked the female character at the start instead of the male character.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't realise. It said press A. I pressed A. It went as a male. I didn't realise that wasn't a wallpaper.
Well, I looked at the two of them, decided he was more ugly, so I was less likely to play him in the final game, so I picked him.
And I decided that time in the morning. I've been up since 6, leave me alone. So the big kind of open battlefield of the Spartans versus the Persians, and you're assisting the Spartans in this battle. It's something we've seen in previous Assassin's Creed games of this giant kind of battlefield, lots of people fighting, you can run in, fight a few peons, and then go for like the big target, or go for whatever the objective is. In this case, you are literally there to fight everyone in that crowd.
And you seem to be up against the kind of almost a timer of them battling against you, and it's like one health bar versus the other, and you had to be winning that battle, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and that did cause some frustration. So I think after so many people you beat, then a big bad will come, and you've got to beat that big bad, and then you've got to pick off the remaining people. Plus, there's a gold-rated level 20 person in there as well.
Yeah, and there's a few captains, and there's one like higher level guy. But after a bit in the battle, it kind of turns your attention to that guy deliberately. But I found that, like in my first playthrough, I gravitated towards him anyway, and you can just pick a fight with him straight away if you want to, basically. Which I thought was quite interesting.
Okay.
And yeah, like as I said, I found it kind of difficult because it's not necessarily because it's difficult, but just because there are a lot of controls and you're trying to get used to them in the heat of the battle type of thing. I mean, you're kind of dropped in slightly at the deep end. I imagine is something that would be tutorialized and explained more by the time you got to that point in the game.
The frustration I kind of had with it, especially in not my first go, the first person I encountered beat me because I wasn't sure what I was doing. And as I went through more and more goes, I started to get the hang of it. And the first time I was near success, there was literally one soldier left against a whole army. And it just went, you've been defeated. How'd that one guy overthrow the Spartans?
It's
I don't know.
Really difficult guy.
It does seem to be on a timer. So
Yeah. But I mean, as I said, I didn't think it was necessarily the best kind of format to be dropped in that game, and I've said that about Assassin's Creed games before in the past. But from what I saw and the experience I got, I was like, okay, I'm actually kind of interested in how that combat works, and seeing that, as we both said, there was a move where, because there was particularly annoying enemies that weren't that hard but had a really big shield, and it was really hard to get past. But one of the special moves you had was just to strip that shield away and hit them with it, which was really quite satisfying.
Yeah. There was a Spartan kick as well, which was quite fun. That was what I was using initially. I was just booting everyone and running after them and kick.
It's a bit slow.
Is you could boot them straight into the middle of the battle. And then when you're trying to pick them off, you'll get attacked by another three. You'll get the attention of another three soldiers that will all attack you at once. So I found that shield bashing thing much easier. Way to go. But yeah, it's actually piqued my interest in that now I want to play. I've got more interest in playing the first game. Well,
so you're going to go back to Origins still?
Yeah, it actually makes me want to finish Origins so I can get to
But see, from what I played of Origins, this seemed a different game again, basically. Kind of. I'm not saying they're necessarily completely reinventing the wheel with this, but they are, adding some more fancy spokes to it, almost kind of thing. I do think this is going to be as different as the first game was to the previous game. I say first game, Origins.
Looking at videos of the two, I think there's enough in common for me to be able to, find a natural progression of the first one to the other. And also, it was quite highly rated, Origins, in comparison to previous titles. So I will get there in the end.
But yeah, as I said, more interested. The next one that we both played actually very shortly afterwards was Starlink Battle for Atlas.
Yay!
You released a photo of this, of me playing with this.
And you released a photo of Fox McCloud, so, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, all good. Power Fox.
I played this before you.
Yes.
With not great feedback, because I went to play this on
mixed feedback, I'd say.
Mixed feedback. I went to go play this on the Xbox and enjoyed it. And then when I was walking past the Nintendo area, they had like a very small a small stand with like 4 consoles for you to play on the Switch.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, no queue, I'll go play that. And it ran like utter arse. It was slow and laggy.
Yeah, see, I was really worried about that because I definitely want the Switch version.
And
of this
the
game.
controls were very not responsive, and it didn't look particularly great. So that sold me on going, well, I wasn't particularly interested in the game until they added Fox McCloud and all the Starwing stuff, so Star Fox stuff. So I thought, maybe if I was going to get it, I'd get it on the Xbox, but maybe I just won't get this game. And then when I went to go play it with you and show you the Xbox version, they didn't have any Xboxes available, so we had to go play on the Switch.
Yep.
And it ran a million times better all of a sudden. So after speaking with someone about this, it turned out that so over on Ubisoft stand, they have these kind of small Perspex boxes with ventilation in there. It's pumping air into it, keeps them nice and cool. And plus, they're resetting them up after every couple of...
We also were playing it first thing in the morning, which I don't know how much that helped.
Yeah, that too. And then I was sort of halfway through the day with the Nintendo version where they keep it in a red box. They just put it in a cupboard and they're like, yeah, that'll do. And the game was just looked rubbish. I did wonder why the guy next to me was kind of involved in what I was doing and trying. He was talking me through like more than I'd like to, and I think he was just hanging around to reset the console, to be honest.
Just in case. But yeah, look, I was worried after you said that. I didn't have any technical issues on my playthrough, basically.
No,
so
me neither on my second one.
Yeah,
It was,
so
really well done.
that's really good news because, as you say, the extra content from Star Fox does make this extra appealing. It's one of those things where you're like, I don't know if the toy thing makes it more or less attractive to me because it seems more of a child's thing that I shouldn't be messing around with.
It kind of, much like the Lego Dimensions thing, where you could, if you want to switch characters, it is quite satisfying to be able to just pluck the character and put a different one in its place, or powers, or whatever you need. And this one has that feeling. I did try a few times of swapping out the weapons that were on my army.
Right, yeah.
I didn't try swapping ships. I didn't know if that was a thing you could do. I didn't ask.
I didn't swap shit, and I didn't mess around with the wings as much. I disconnected them to start with.
You can't do that on the R-Wing.
Right, okay. That'll probably be why. I know, I did disconnect them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did.
Then maybe I just didn't notice that bit.
Yeah. But I didn't mess around and plug them in different places and stuff. But yeah, I did actually physically pulling one weapon off and putting another one on, and there are it does give you reasons to do that within the gameplay, and there was something mechanically satisfying about it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I do wonder how they're going to how did they do it on the Xbox controllers? Because on the Switch one, you've obviously got the two Joy-Cons that you can slide either side of a centerpiece that has the thing mounted to it.
I believe it's a similar system, but instead of being a thing that slots Joy-Cons onto, it's like a cradle that goes over the controller.
Right, okay, that makes
so
sense.
a similar system, but at one point, on one hand, I do like the system of snapping things in and out of place. It's very satisfying to do so, and it's something like if you have smaller relatives or anyone in your family like that you can show this off to, that's going to be a really cool
Smaller
thing.
relatives like your little grandma.
Well, I was thinking, show my friend's daughter, I'm going to be the coolest friend of her dad. I don't know. Anyway,
it's like it was the qualifier was shorter, not younger. But anyway,
shorter people. Anyway, so that's cool on one hand. The other hand is I don't want loads of toy spaceships.
Yeah.
And they look fine, but and again, the R-Wing would be a nice, cool thing to have. But they are hollow. They look very breakable. If you trod on one, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't survive the brunt. They're not Lego.
Right, but I think the trade-off with that is it had to be hollow and kind of a bit empty because you don't want a lot of weight on that control pad to add to the weight of the control pad.
Why are we balancing them on a control pad? Why don't we have a USB portal or something?
I don't know, Coleman. I don't
as well,
know.
because now I'm back sold to I'm sold on the Switch version again. I'll be mostly playing this in handheld on the tube. I'm not sticking plastic.
Yeah, but
spaceships.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm pretty sure they've said that you can play the same content without that and just be able to do that through menus rather than doing it through
I'm assuming if you bought it, then that's something you now own digitally as well as physically, and also they're also I don't know how much you played around with this in the demo you played as well, but there's the different weapons that you I think you can physically buy the things, and I think you can still buy them in game anyway. Not sure on that, but there are definitely modifiers in the game that do make a large amount of difference to the weapons, and I think that will probably make a larger amount of difference than the actual weapons themselves in some cases. But I did like the way you can combine the two weapons that you have on either wing for good effects. I had one where there was a vortex weapon and I had a fire-based weapon, and I could fire the vortex. I didn't think to double up the weapons.
Oh, okay, well I did massive more damage by firing the vortex and then firing the fire weapon into it, and it created a fire vortex, which did a significant amount more fire damage. So yeah, that was cool to see that you could combine the weapons in different ways and stuff.
There was a point where I finished my demo, and then I looked at I went stand by you and point out anything that didn't seem obvious initially, because it's not obvious to begin with. And there was a point where there's a big spider creature that fires lasers out of its legs. It's got a big glowy target on the front of his face, but he shields it at times. But then he fires lasers out of his legs by lifting his legs up, and you have to shoot him in the leg pit.
Leg pit, yeah,
I guess. And there was a point where you were it looked like you were missing it, and I was like, "Oh, you want to?" And I was like, "Oh, I should tell him to use the homing missiles." And then I looked, and you didn't have homing missiles in front of you, so I was tempted to just grab them off the other. Sorry, can I just borrow these?
But see, the handy thing with my vortex weapon was that was like a big distortion field that stayed in one place, so he was rotating, but because the hit point was at the same point in each leg. When he rotated, I was still messing up the next leg.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, obviously swings and roundabouts with the type of weapon we had, but it's good to see that there was that level of variety because we had different weapons between us, and I had 4 different weapons myself, kind of thing. Yes. So, yeah, it was good.
Anyway, so yes, Starlink probably a recommend from me.
I think so. I'm now convinced I would like to play.
I know it's out this year. I'm thinking it's December. I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to be picking this one up.
In my Star Fox photo, there is the date. I believe it was earlier than that. I think.
Okay, so it might be November. Anyway, yeah, I think I'll be picking up Starlink for the Switch.
Yeah.
Okay. Dreams, which is something that's piqued my interest ever since first seeing it for the PlayStation. Something that was revealed without name, but revealed at the PlayStation 4 reveal, which still isn't out.
You can kind of see why, though, no?
No, I don't. If you don't know, if you haven't seen any of the playthroughs and things they've shown off at the PlayStation Experience and Paris Games Week and all what have you, Dreams is Media Molecule's new baby. They're the guys who created the original Little Big Planet and the sequel, not the third one, though. And it's a game that is about making games, or realizing, actually physically creating dreams is the idea. Thus the name Dreams. And this demo, it showcases what will be the main campaign, which was interesting because the main campaign we saw in the demo was nothing like the main campaign we've seen in a playthrough shown at, I think it was Paris Games Week, which that I think it's going to showcase the different elements you can do in building and making different versions of games by putting them in one cohesive storyline. So that's pretty cool. But at the same time, there's lots of little experiences we got to play around those as well that have been created by Media Molecule, which, some were really cool, some were a bit forgettable, but overall, I really enjoyed Dreams. I know you weren't so up on it as I was.
Right. There were elements I really liked, and I was impressed with some of the variety that was on show. I wanted to like it a bit more than I came away from doing from that demo. Part of my problem was the main campaign thing. I couldn't figure out the first thing to do in that. Like, I got stuck, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just play the other mini levels.
But but it was a platformer.
Yeah, like, literally, I couldn't get off the first platform.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I gave up and played some of the other mini games.
I really enjoyed that one.
Well, see, I didn't get to play it, basically, but I went and played off the other side, and I'm right. I really want to like this game more than as I said, because I played Little Big Planet in spite of not liking platformers, because I really liked the concept, and I really like this concept even more, and this is playing around in other game genres that I like more.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see where it goes. I came away from the demo a little bit flatter than I was hoping to. Like, I quite liked the, and I can't remember the names of them, but the kind of space shoot 'em up type thing, just because that was so massively different from anything in Little Big Planet, basically.
Okay.
So,
I really liked, there was something called Comic Sans.
Sans. Yeah, that was entertaining.
Yeah, where you're like a little block, and it's all very a scribble drawn kind of style game, and you're a little block, and you're a little it's block. A side-scrolling platformer, and then eventually a pencil appears and draws you some legs, and then you've now got legs instead of just jumping, so you can walk. And then, like, outside of the drawn style, a sock puppet appears with a pencil in his mouth who looks very realistic, and then he's just disappears. And then if you keep following the game, eventually the drawn style is dropped and everything is 3D actualized, and you're in a desert, and that looked so cool. It blew my mind.
Well, I thought that one was particularly interesting just because it seemed to show a blending of different kind of animation styles layered on top of each other and making a sort of coherent thing, but being slightly disparate things. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And as well as the kind of showing the sort of artistic side of this, and you can make what essentially interactive mini movies. I really liked Please Hug Me, For some reason, I'm not sure why. It's quite depressing.
Yeah.
But you're like a little block with arms, and you're trying to hug these creatures that are on a circular platform. And as you get closer, they step back away from you.
A spherical platform, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, spherical platform. And they all start falling off the platform. So once they've all fallen off, the camera starts to pan away, and it starts to get darker, and the kind of the black circular end credit starts
encircling you.
Yeah, encircling you. It's a spotlight on you, and it kind of lingers as a tiny little dot as you can still walk around, but then it just disappears.
Fades to nothing.
I was like, that was very poignant. I really liked that for some reason. But yes, I'm looking more forward to Dreams than I've been from demonstrations, and plus you can create VR demos, so that should be fun.
Yeah.
Team Sonic Racing.
Oh.
Yeah. I've never picked up a Sonic racing game.
No, and I've always
not
heard...
since Sonic R. Sorry.
Okay, I've never picked up a Sonic racing game, and I've always heard like okay things, but it always seemed definitely much like a poor man's Mario Kart. And I looked at this and went, "Oh, it's actually got slightly different looking cars. This might be alright." And then I thought it handled like dog biscuits. Like I really know.
Where Mario Kart is, the emphasis is on kart racing. Sonic Team Racing is the very kind of, these aren't your granddad's karts. They're rockets and sports cars.
They look like F1 karts, basically, kind of thing. I mean, like,
they're all different styles, and it's meant to be extreme. And the controllers felt... Do you know what? The controllers felt like a little bit better version of that fruit kart game that I had to play.
See, you didn't like that. But yeah, see, I can understand... I don't know. Like, I really liked some of the elements of the kind of team thing, and that was one of the things that pulled me into it anyway. But I liked the implementation of that in the game. Like the kind of slingshot that you could do with your teammates was quite cool. Mm-hmm. It's basically like drafting, but you can only do it with your teammates. Basically.
Yes, and I look forward to them nicking those ideas and sticking them in Mario Kart.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
And it's got some nice like teamwork ideas, and you can like share items with each other, and that gives the item a bit of a buff as well, and stuff like that. And that all seemed really cool. My major problem was, I don't know if it was just the car that I played in, but I thought that it handled like, arse. I really wasn't happy with it.
It was way floaty.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. There was no resistance on it as well.
Yeah, and it was like, let's like, tap the brake to go into a skid. And I was like, why does that skid this way?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore.
No,
Whereas in Mario Kart, like
it took a while to learn how to drift.
It's really good. Yeah, that's true, and that may be more nuanced. But yeah, I'm not totally adverse to trying it again because I like the team up mechanics, but I wasn't happy with the handling from what I played. Basically,
maybe they'll release a demo.
Yeah, hopefully
we can play to death to see if it's worth getting. But anyway, Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Tom Clancy's The Division is a game we both played and both went cold on pretty quick. I think you went colder quicker than I did.
I went colder quicker than you.
Yes.
It's cold in New York.
I had a problem where people they were either not available to play when I was available, or I wasn't available to play when they were available, or they had surpassed me in level, so the enemies became too hard for me to actually participate. Or they jumped off to the PC, Dan.
That was my problem with the game. I really quite liked it at first, but I ended up playing the same content 5 times and just went, I don't want to do this so much anymore.
But now it's set in Washington, DC.
Yep.
It is, there's more, it's taken away from the winter cold snow of New York. And there's
sunny
sun.
Washington.
There's sun. It's not the short aftermath of a virus outbreak, but it's the long aftermath. So we're now rebuilding. Civilization is becoming what it should be, and we're growing food, and we're creating communities.
We didn't see much of that in the demo, though.
No, we've seen it in preview and stuff previously, but this was, I think this was actually in the E3 demo. There was, because I remember a big plane being in the gameplay demo.
I think so.
But also, there's 4-player instead of 3-player, which worked out pretty well, I thought. And you have different classes, and I picked a sharpshooter. What did you pick?
Well, mine was kind of allotted for me after everyone else picked theirs, and I also had a sharpshooter, so we didn't get a massive...
So we were just sniper rifling all the way through.
Right, but I did like the way that, you were probably better off doing that, but that you can also still switch to like a rifle or any other weaponry and still be effective at killing people with it as well, basically.
No, that's fine. I literally just headshotted fools left, right, and centre. So the gameplay footage is already out there. There's no point going into like the whole experience of what we did. But what I will say is, after talking to a few different people before playing the game, saying that they were picking it up and like making arrangements and stuff, and then after actually playing the game, I'm more sold on Division 2 than I was after the reveal.
Yeah, I was pretty cold on it after dropping off the first game. But this has turned my head again. Like if you're going for it and we get some people to play with, I'm like, okay, yeah, this could be really good as a 4-player. Like I really enjoyed the experience of what we did and the way it works, and yeah, seems cool.
Yeah, Arca's Path. That's a VR game, Tim.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you want me to take the lead on this one.
Go for it.
Although we both played. This was one where I was really interested because it's got a strange control method of literally just using the headset to steer it's not quite spherical. I'm not sure what the shape of that is.
Ball-like.
Dodecahedron, maybe?
Ball-like.
Something, I don't know.
Ball-like object.
It's almost round, but it's got kind of, hexagons, kind of almost like a simplified football, but
ball-like.
But yeah, anyway. But yeah, like it's an object you're running through the environment, and as I said, you're just using the headset to control it. And I was really interested to see how that would work. You're kind of rolling that object through mazes, almost like in a Super Monkey Ball kind of fashion, but as I said, you're just controlling it with visual looks. And I was curious how it would work and curious like how challenging it would get, and I'm still curious to see how challenging it get deeper in the game, because I was still messing around with like trying to stay on the path while they still had nice borders to protect you from falling off the edges. So when I got to the bits that didn't have edges, as I suspected were coming, I was fairly comfortable with getting through it and stuff. But I was actually impressed with the kind of fidelity of control you could have just considering the control method. Like basically, if you're like staring straight at the ball, you can stop it on a like quite precise kind of braking system. But then also like looking behind or ahead of it, you can move it quite minutely as well, basically. So yeah, I that's something where I'm not sure it's a game that you'd want to sit down and play for like 8 hours because of
not.
You'd probably knacker your neck. But I was really impressed with what they did with it, and considering it will be a very accessible game, and I don't just mean that in the terms of necessarily disabled gamers who it will be good for, in certain disabilities cases, but also just in general, like this is a good one for showing someone that isn't used to playing with a controller, because one of the things about showing off VR to people is if you stick at someone that's not familiar with a control pad, blindfold them and then ask them to press X, like that can be a difficult thing for non-gamers. So I think like VR games that do go with this method is quite a good thing for being able to show this off to other people as well. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting and really fun. What did you think, Mr. Coleman?
Yeah, it felt like head tracking controlled Marble Madness, but less infuriating than the original Marble Madness.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed playing it, and as you said, kind of using it as a disability type thing. I was thinking, like, immediately when playing it, I thought, I wonder if special effects have come and seen this game, because it does seem right up their street. It was a very beautiful game. It had a beautiful soundtrack that worked very well with the atmosphere and kind of dragged me in. It's that weird kind of thing, like there's a game called Dear Esther, which is a stroll playing game. And it's literally you walking through a land while you're getting this narrative.
Yeah.
It was very popular when it first released, not so much when it re-released. But it had this, if you're listening with headphones on, as I was, I felt like myself getting emotional from playing the game.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that with the soundtrack here, is it was definitely having an effect on me. And yeah, that's good all-round game creation,
Yeah. And yeah, like as I said, that's definitely one that I'm definitely going to pick up now, basically. So yeah.
Excellent.
Interested and confirmed. Good.
Cool. So after that, we've got Tick-Tock A Tale for Two,
Now-
which we played together.
Yeah, we'll gloss over this a little bit just because this was part of the interviews and we've already gone through that. But just generally, like, yeah, what was your, kind of takeaway?
I was worried because there was a kid, well, there was a couple of kids in front of us before that played the game, and I think they got like 25 minutes for one, a little bit longer for the previous before that. And when in the middle, so the game was being timed, the demo was being timed, and then some friends of ours were behind us shortly after our playthrough, getting ready to take the mick out of whatever time we had. I was like, please don't be longer than the 8-year-old kid that was playing before us. Luckily, we had 17 minutes, so it wasn't too bad.
Respectable.
I really enjoy it. As is explained in the interview, it's co-op that isn't connected. So it's essentially two separate games. And one has to pick player one has to pick player two, and the co-op aspect is you talking to each other.
Yeah, and relying on information that only one of the other people can see, that you both have to figure out what the differences and the similarities are so that you can progress.
Which a lot of ours was leaning over and looking at the other person's screen, I will admit on that. I'd be more interested to see how that works over Discord or something, Yeah,
and I think that's, obviously something, when you're showing it on the show floor, it's probably makes sense to put them right next to each other and make it so everyone can see what's going on a little bit. But I think once you get into the game, once you get the feel for it, it'll be really interesting to see how that goes across multiple devices, basically.
Yeah, and because it's not connected, it can be played through, a mobile phone, iOS and Android. It can be played through Nintendo Switch. It can be played through the PC, through Steam. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
I love that. And for such a simple game as well. I'm looking forward to that one. Override Mech City Brawl. I love this game, even though I keep forgetting the name. And people go, "What you get? What games would you recommend that you've played so far?" Like, you play that robot fighting game. What robot fighting game? Is it this one? Is it 2D? No, it's not 2D. No, it's like a 3D.
You were quite obsessed with this, and to the point where you'd already played it a few times and still dragged me over to play it as well, basically.
Yes, I love this game. This is essentially, I think it was called, we pulled it up on Switch as well. I think it's called
King of Monsters,
which was a Neo Geo game, well, an arcade game that came to Neo Geo and also came to Mega Drive in a lesser form. They're about the same, just more characters. Anyway, so this is that, but instead of giant monsters and Astro Guy, who's awesome, it's robots, big robots. And some of them are legally different versions of, say, Optimus Prime or a Megazord or things
they're
that
recognizable.
They're going to be recognizable. And then other ones are original creations. One of my favorite being, I think he's called Legacy. And he's a smaller robot. He's very skinny, but he has a CRT monitor for a head. But then that's funny in itself, because how big's that monitor? Because these are giant robots, which I love. So you're all kind of skyscraper level, if a little bit taller on some characters' cases. So as you're fighting each other, much like in King of Monsters, you're smashing all these buildings around you, and there's something very satisfying about that. What's cool about this one is there's a 4-player element. You can all battle each other in 4-player, and it's got a little bit of a Smash Brother thing where a different item will appear in game, and you can pick up, say, a sword or a shield or a gun, and have that to your advantage. Funnily, you didn't see it. There's a frying pan in there, a very detailed frying pan as well, might I add. And again, it's a giant frying pan. That's brilliant. I love that. And as well as firing you can fire a gun, and once it's depleted, you could throw it at your opponent as well, which is quite cool when you get the hang of it.
It seemed like it would be fun. Basically, you were too busy kicking my ass for me to really get the natural feel of it necessarily. But look, it seems silly and big robots smashing through buildings and having multiplayer fun. That sounds good.
Yeah, and it is coming to PS4 and Xbox One soon as well.
Okay.
I did spot it on the PlayStation store in the pre-order, so I'm going to have to get myself that. Vox Racers. Interesting.
Yeah, it was one of those things. This was, I can't remember how many hours they said the original game was made in. Was it 8 or something?
8 hours.
Yeah, and was that were they saying that everything no, I think they polished it up afterwards to get it to the point that it's at, basically.
Yeah, I think they put a timer in there that day, they were saying as well.
Yeah,
they're constantly making changes to this game. The kind of elevator pitch is, it's a very blocky looking racing game. which you can race these different ships, different vehicles on land through a very polygonal land, and you can also fire lasers at objects and other players, though it's very hard to hit other players.
It looks a bit like Minecraft racing.
Yeah, the cool thing about it is
Minecraft Wipeout.
The controllers that it uses, there's one joystick and then one throttle, and that kind of added... Basically, I played this game a couple of days previous before you turned up, Tim, and then went, I'm not so sure on the game, but I really like the controls.
Yeah.
So I grabbed you and went, we got to play this game very quickly as well. Just go play with the controller. It looks really cool. But then I got more used to the game the second time round. Don't know if any other improvements were made that day as well as a timer. But I really enjoyed that game for what it was. It's not exactly going to be a £40 put down and pre-order purchase kind of thing, but I think it's more proof of concept more than anything, and that's why I liked it.
It's using a kind of HOTAS stick type thing in a way that I haven't really seen employed. There might be other things out there doing it. I haven't really seen it. It was interesting from that perspective. I think it needs a bit more, level of polish to get to a finished product, but that's kind of, what to expect from that sort of thing. I think that's fine. But yeah, it was interesting and fun, put it that way.
Okay. Soundfall. This is a roguelite adventure game that has a rhythm game element.
Yeah. They said a rhythm-based dungeon crawler is how they
rhythm-based dungeon crawler, so not too dissimilar from Crypt of the Necrodancer, but less emphasis on the retro pixelated style, more up-to-date looking game. Very polished, very fun. I really enjoyed this. The idea is everything you're doing on the beat of a music track.
Yeah.
Which I think were all dance tracks when we got there. But that worked. I liked it. So you're firing guns, you're swinging swords, you're doing it all in time, you're jumping over platforms, you're, again, doing it all in time. We encountered like one little section where it had like a line with dots on it, and if you didn't hit the dots in time with the beat, then you weren't moving. And that was where you were stuck for a bit.
Well, that was mainly because I didn't notice a separate. I obviously missed one, and then I was like, Where am I? Oh, okay, I'm back there. But yeah, look, I did say going into the game, and I know this about myself from many rhythm games throughout the years, I obviously don't have a very good sense of rhythm when it comes to games.
No.
But, like, it was one of those things where nodding along to kind of get the beat, I was kind of enjoying it. I really liked the concept, basically. I wasn't necessarily naturally suited towards playing it well, but I enjoyed it enough to go, okay, that's cool. And it was like kind of fun when you're nodding along to the beat and just kind of, shooting along to that kind of rhythm.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one thing I found is that like the visual indicator of the rhythm could be done. I would think it would be better served being at the top of the screen or near the top of the screen rather than near the bottom, just because it would be easier to keep
What I
an eye
liked
on it.
as well is like the longer the rhythm is going, then the kind of atmosphere around you is also reacting with that rhythm as well. So you've got not just indicators on the bottom in the form of a line that's actually on the screen telling you, but also you've got music bars that are moving on the sides of the walls and things, which I didn't notice at first. You pointed that out to me. So the indicators are all around you as long as you're doing well.
Yeah.
I quite like that. So, it's one to look out for, definitely. Tony Slopes, a family affair, if there ever was one.
Yeah, this game a family's made, and from the sounds of it, they're also working in conjunction with a studio in Australia that are doing most of the actual coding side of things. But it's one of those things where it's an interesting idea. I'd like to see it polished up a few more levels to actually make it a more interesting game. And I think they know that. They've had the funny idea. They've made this so far. And that was one of the reasons they're showing it off, to get the feedback to kind of fill it out a bit more.
Yes. Definitely take some Tony Hawk's Underground Pro Skater, or whatever they used to call those ones, influence. Tony Slopes, Tony Hawk, very, very similar. Anyway. It's a downhill racer, so and then you pick random weird things that you can race on. So, for instance, Tim was on a whale, a giant whale,
a massive whale,
giant sperm whale.
It looked very shiny as well. Yes, very shiny whale,
very wet. I was on a double bass.
And the variety of objects was just amusingly funny, and I do think there's definitely the kernel of a good idea that they can kind of build upon. The thing that they were asking for other people to suggest were like other objects they could put in the game.
we
Yeah.
suggested the Big Red Barrel,
Of course we did.
obviously. But yeah, like, and I can see that getting some traction, and I can see this possibly getting interest on like Twitch stream stuff. I think they need to make the whole thing a bit snappier though. It was like 3 minutes long, and that felt too long without much
it was
in it.
very. It kind of there was a weird. It was a very. I wouldn't say floaty. Too simple in the driving mechanic, and
It's literally speed up and slow down.
yeah,
basically.
speed up, slow down. One stick was the entire control system you have, so it's very, very, very early. They're not intending to ship this as is or anything near as is. We found it very easy to play through, and then these random assets just doing things around you. Like we went through a field of spaceships firing lasers, and that's what took me out on the end. But
Well, that was the level we were playing was the level they were showing off was Area 52.
Yes.
So that's where the aliens came into the equation, I believe.
the deleted thing from the new Predator film, I believe. Look it up.
Oh,
anyway. Yeah, so Tony Slopes, we checked it out. It was an interesting idea. We hope to see more of that in the future and in a more polished state.
Yeah, I think they spent all the time polishing that whale because that whale was really shiny.
Yes. So we've gone 10 minutes over our allotted time, so we're going to have to be much quicker on these individual stuff. Tim, Astrobot.
Astrobot, I'm going to have a write-up about, so I will gloss over a little bit, but it is an extension of the Playroom VR mini-game that they had, which was a kind of action platformery type thing. Anyone that knows I don't like platformers very much, but having loved Moss so much, I was a bit more keen on this, and having played it, I'm kind of on board. This is a day one purchase for me now, I think. It's very charming, very cutesy, but yeah, like there's something quite nice about being in the midst of the whole action and environment kind of evolving around you type of thing. It's like there's something that I see a future of VR platform games, which I didn't think would ever be a genre that would work in VR necessarily, and especially work for me in VR. So I'm on board for that.
It has a great trailer. Look out for it. It's although it's got a track that in a robot voice keeps saying "I am Astrobot" constantly.
Yeah,
that gets a little bit annoying, but it's very cute looking. Tetris Effect.
Now Tetris Effect, yes. I was very keen on this going in. Everyone knows, I've probably banged on about it after the announcement and stuff after E3, but having got to go play it, it's one of those things. I keep on doing this myself. It was the game I was most excited to play, so I went to play it first, and then everything else kind of paled in comparison a bit after it.
Okay.
Like, I love Tetris, and I really loved Lumines or Lumines, and yeah, like the idea of someone, and particularly the person that is making it, Mitsuguchi, sorry. Just fusing Tetris with music with VR is like a dream come true for me, and I absolutely loved it. Basically, like there are some slight concerns and misgivings. Again, I'm going to go and write up if you want to read that. You can go into more detail there. But basically, slightly concerned that the backgrounds might be a bit distracting, but I think that's something that you will get used to. But the backgrounds aren't... Describing them as backgrounds doesn't quite do them justice, kind of thing, because there's kind of particle effects that go over the whole... the actual thing that the Tetris stuff that you're doing that you know and love of the puzzle game is on a 2D plane in front of you, but those particle effects go kind of everywhere and all around you and everything. But yeah, music really high quality. I'm so on board for this. It's not even funny. Like I can't wait basically. So yeah, all good.
Okay. Wargroove.
My game of the show from Rezzed. Got to play a different level in single player, and even though I didn't play the multiplayer, I kind of watched the people in front of me go through a multiplayer game as well. Like it's unashamedly Advanced Wars. Again, we just had an interview with them, so we've gone through a lot of the stuff, but I'm kind of disqualified this as my game of the show because it was my game of the show for Reds already, but it probably would have been a strong contender otherwise type of thing. I loved Advanced Wars. This is a fantasy-based Advanced Wars with a few more bells and whistles, and I'm on board. So yeah, all good.
Okay. What the Golf?
This was a really crazy game. Another one from the Left Field collection. basically, you start off, and the first hole, you're like, well, okay, this is just a little golf game. It's got a slightly different mechanic than some of the stuff. You basically like kind of pull the mouse back and let it propel forward, and well, I think it's almost the opposite of that, but it's got a kind of arrow, and you can do the different strength and just aim it with the mouse. I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. That's cool. And then the next hole, you go to do the same thing, and instead of propelling the ball forward when you do that, it propels the person forward. And then like subsequent holes, it just gets like slightly more bizarre. Basically, at one point you are propelling the hole forward, and it says a different random thing whenever you get to the end of each hole. And in this one, you're propelling the hole forward, and there's a hollowed out one at the end of the where the green normally is.
Yeah.
Or when the end hole is, so, or the flag. It's normally a flag that you're aiming for. That's right. But then I put, did the shot to get it in, and it comes up with the words "hole in one." And I was like, of course that was what you were going to say. And then there's this other bizarre objects that it kind of goes through other things, and it's almost like always sitting on like a golf course thing, and you're aiming for a flag, but it's getting an object from one end to the other. Like, and you're not always going for the flag, because at one point you go to a football, and you've got to get that football in the goal, and footballs can be like continuously hit at different times.
Right.
So rather than just like it doing one shot and then waiting for the next one as you would with a golf ball, this, you're like, as soon as it's you've let go of it, you can grab it and fling it around again, basically. And there's loads of different weird puzzles like that with that as well, basically. Just a bit crazy, and in a good and entertaining way. Definitely one to look out for. What the golf, all in caps with an exclamation mark.
Okay. So after What the Golf, we had another one of the people we interviewed earlier. That would be for Small Talk.
Small Talk, yeah. And this was a really strange one. We were there on the first day, and Will, who we were with, actually was actually playing it, and I was kind of watching over his shoulder while we were waiting for Tick-Tock, I believe.
Right.
And then I end up going back to it a couple of days later. And yeah, it's a very bizarre game, but very beautiful looking, and definitely, like, you can tell, as I said, you can tell from any one screenshot of this game that it is this game, basically. Definitely just worth, if you do nothing else, just go and have a look at the artwork. Obviously, we've had the interview and we've gone into a bit more depth, but yeah, really interesting, and definitely one to keep an eye out for, basically.
Yeah, I've certainly become more interested in this game since the interview, in fact. And,
okay.
Yeah, I've been checking out the gifts and stuff from the creator earlier, so I've actually signed myself down for once this comes out, I want to know, kind of thing. I'm looking forward.
Definitely one to look out for. It's definitely different.
Skyfront VR, Tim.
Skyfront VR. Now, this was one that DMed's done a write-up for, so I'll skirt over a little bit, but this was the last game that I kind of made a beeline for after we did our interviews. I had just enough time to squeeze in one more game, and I got to be the last person to play this game at the event. Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of, and not necessarily aesthetically, but kind of in some ways reminded me of the Cliffy B game, the Lawbreakers.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it's kind of, you're flying around an environment type thing, but you're propelling yourself with these kind of thrusters that you can have in either hand. And either you can have a thruster, or you can have a different weapon. As the name suggested, it's kind of I'm not sure if it's just Skyfront VR or just Skyfront, but yeah, it's a VR game, and I was playing it on the Vive. Basically, I do believe they're possibly planning on porting it to other things later, but it was definitely just on the Vive for now. And yeah, like it was yeah. I am not the best person at playing competitive multiplayer shooters. I'll be the first person to admit this, and anyone that knows this, is not necessarily, yeah.
Anyone who's not necessarily.
What the fuck am I talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I'm not the best person at competitive first-person shooters, but this was like enjoyable, and it was definitely slightly different than anything I'd played, and was interesting and fun. Like it's one of those things where I worry if a game like Lawbreakers couldn't get enough people behind it, is there going to be enough people to support this game in VR? Version. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but it's not. I'm not saying it's necessarily the same as that. It's just, you're kind of flying around in an environment and propelling yourself in an environment with gun-like object type things. So it's not not one and the same, but yeah, like definitely worth looking out for if you're a VR fan or if you've got Vive, obviously that's one to look out for. But yeah, I'm really hopeful this will come to PSVR. So yeah, we shall see.
All right. My ones, I played Beat Saber, which is a current game that's out already, but this is the PSVR version that isn't out yet.
Yay!
After playing Beat Saber very briefly on a Vive, I wanted to go give this a go. Well, initially I wanted to book an appointment and give it to Tim, but we weren't allowed to do that, so I went to go play it myself. And yeah, I was pretty impressed from so my main complaint with PSVR, which is probably the same as you, Tim, is the Move controllers.
Yeah.
At times in certain games, they can be
let you down.
Not as responsive as you'd like, or can just completely go, I don't want to do this, and just disappear.
Just go off for a tea break.
Yeah, and it's infuriating playing a game that's so good, like Super Hot, and then your arm just disappears, that kind of stuff. Beat Saber had that a little bit, like had a hiccup very briefly where my arm kind of turned around. It took a little shake to get it back to normal. Other than that, very responsive, like one-to-one responsive. I really, really, really liked it.
Okay, and that's pretty good considering it was on the show floor and stuff as well.
Yes, and that may have... Basically, PlayStation with that demo may have sold another PSVR.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Yes, it won't be immediately, but I'm going to have to put some money aside and grab me one because I really want to play that game.
Nice.
Very fun. Really enjoyed it. Apparently there's a bonus track that's only on the PSVR version that was in that demo. So that's why other people who have the game were coming to play it because they wanted to play that track.
Okay, interesting.
Metro Exodus.
Now I'm keen to hear about this because I didn't get a chance to play it, and but
we were going to go play this both together, but we ran very low on time, sadly. I went to go play this with some friends, and it's a Metro game. Now, I don't know because I've never played the Metro games before. I just saw the massive queue for this game, and when someone went, "Oh, we're going to go play this. You want in?" I was like, "Yeah, totally. I'll see if I can jump that queue." And it's post-apocalyptic Russia. That's what I get from Metro. They're usually in a series of tunnels, and this is more out in the world. And you scavenge for things, and you build things, and you grab weapons, and you make new weapons, and there's very entertaining looking things. And
there seems to be some talk about whether, like, because in the previous games, ammunition was also currency, and that seems to not necessarily be the case from what I've heard people talk about.
That's not touched on at all, so I have no idea.
But was the gunplay good? Because that's one of the things that
It's not like a Destiny good or I assume Call of Duty is a good standard for gunplay. It felt to me more like a BioShock or one of those kinds of games where it's not necessarily that's not the basis of the full game, but it's there. It's fine.
It's serviceable.
It's
basically.
passable. It's like Fallout gunplay kind of thing.
It's not that bad.
Well, all right, not that. All right, somewhere.
I'm being harsh, but yeah.
Okay, but yeah, you explore lands, and so what I had is I came across these dudes, a camp that they were. Well, first I came across one guy who was being attacked by a wolf, so I killed the wolf, and then I had the chance of I could either untie him or I could kill him or do what the hell I wanted, really. So I chose to untie him and left him there for his friends to come pick him up. And then there was a nearby camp that was an old school area, I think. And as I was walking up to this bridge, this guy dropped out of a tree to warn me not to come any further. And he scared me by jumping out the tree, and I went, bang! And I went, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then two other guys jumped out the tree and jumped me, and I died. So I tried again, and went. This time I stealthed in, and it turned out I do have to kill those people. So I stealthed in and started sneaking up. I killed 3 people before I got spotted, so I can assume you can go through that whole way and just kill everyone. But I didn't really get much further than that, and judging by everyone around me, they didn't get much further either, but other people did other things that seemed more entertaining because they knew what they were doing.
Right.
At any point, you can pull out a backpack and start crafting materials or making changes to your weapons and stuff. I did none of that. I had no idea what I was doing. So we came out, and a lot of people, they were very positive, like people that played Metro and they love that series, they were very positive about the game.
Right, okay.
I came out and went, that was a game. I'm not up on it. I'm not down on it. It was fine. Right. I'm sure there's going to be massive fans of that game that are going to go all the moist over it. Not for me.
All the moist.
All the moist. I'll probably pick it up in a sale at some point and go, I should probably give that another go.
probably where I'm at with it, I think.
Diablo 3 Eternal Collection. This is the Switch port of Diablo 3. It's Diablo. It's definitely downgraded from what the Diablo is we know on consoles and PC. It's still very good though. It plays very well. It plays at 60. The fidelity, the visual style of Diablo isn't all there in the console version anyway, because it is this isometric view, and it does feel like a downgraded version of that. So it's kind of like the super impressive mobile port of Diablo. No idea what it plays like docked, but on the handheld version, it's enough for me to go, yes, I want to pick this up because I'm going to waste all the time on every single journey I go on playing Diablo 3.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay.
So that was very fun, and we got to play like super maxed out. I think they're like level 70 characters with all the powers and stuff, and just go
berserk.
Yeah, just go berserk, and that was quite fun to do as well. So yeah,
cool.
Tanglewood.
You
played this previously and spoke about this previously, so I won't go too much into it.
And we got the interview as well.
And we've got the interview as well. But this is a Mega Drive game. It is on a physical Mega Drive cartridge. It will come to other. Then it was touched on in the interview, but something I really liked about playing this is someone came up next to me and asked the guy what other console. He's like, okay, it's on a Mega Drive. What are you going to port it to? And he went, Dreamcast. He's like, okay. And after that, he goes, we're looking at Amiga 500. And my ears pricked up, so I'm a big Amiga fanboy. 500 plus is mine. But anyway. That made me laugh a lot to myself. But playing the game, what you said, the greatest compliment you can give it is it feels like the lost Mega Drive game. It feels like it belongs. And I do too. And not like this super polished, amazing Mega Drive game. There are some limitations to the cartridge, a lot of limitations to the cartridge and what you can put on there. And it feels like a game that came out kind of mid-cycle, not like to the end, not to the start. And again, it fits in perfectly. Feels like a lost Mega Drive game. You can see there's definitely some influences taken from other titles. You're playing as a fox and doing platforming and solving puzzles, but the fox, its jump animation and style of running and things definitely feels like Simba in the Lion King game.
Okay.
And there is also a part which I had confirmed as well. There is a part where you run on to the side of a screen and you're going through a cave. Then all of a sudden you stop, the camera pans, and there is a giant beast, and it starts a whole thing where you're running away from this beast, and you have to outsmart it and eventually kill it. It was confirmed to me that the entire outline of the beast is taken from Another World, which there is a beast very early in that. And I saw it and I went, is this another... I think I said, is this a flashback reference because I got the wrong game? But those are two very similar games.
Yeah,
so
I interchange them all the time. I can't remember which ones were.
Every time. I also played MaoMao Castle, which I don't think you'll be able to play because it runs off a projector and a hand tracker, I guess. A little pad. A little pad that's like a USB stick size type thing with a little screen on it, and you put your hand over it and you move it side to side, up and down, and you're playing a cat. I was told this is Nyan Cat Simulator. I wouldn't agree. There's a specific Sega arcade game that it reminds me of, but I'm fading on what it's called.
Space Harrier?
Space Harrier. It's definitely a very Space Harrier style game.
It's Space Harrier with mad cats, basically.
Yes. Well, a cat.
Well, yeah.
So you're playing this cat. It's got a very elongated body that's made in segments. So when you move it around, it kind of traces in where it's going. You're meant to be collecting rainbows for points, but also mowing grass for points and flowers and things.
Okay.
And it's just a score chase, basically. And it's a very difficult one as well. I don't know if it's because the motion sensor is so tiny, but I found myself, my hand would move too far out of the way quite a lot. Which was a bit infuriating, but at the same time, very fun. The guy who presented it was wearing a tiger onesie, so instantly, I'm endeared to you now. You're not my president for life. No, the guy presenting definitely brought his A game. Like he was energetic every time I saw him. He was on it.
Yeah, he's been at a few events now, like EGX and Res and stuff, and he always full on basically.
Yes. I've been calling it MaoMao Castle, but other people have been saying MaoMao because it's MAO Castle. So you can look that up for yourself. Double Puck Switch. I don't really want to go into this too much because I wasn't that impressed. It felt like this is meant to be a PC game. It felt like it was an old like Android or iPhone game that had been ported over. You're a pug.
So it's not on the Switch, despite having it in its title.
No, I don't think it is. So the whole point of it being called Double Pug Switch is there's a light and negative space that you're switching between, much like Gianna Sisters.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I liken it to. It's Gianna Sisters meets The Impossible Game. You have a pug that moves on his own, and you have a button to jump, and you have a button to switch from the regular to the negative space. Certain platforms will have a no outline, and some platforms will have a white outline. If they're on the white outline, regular space. No outline, negative space.
Right.
That's the game. You
Okay.
have to, it's not that impressive. It's something that I've seen done before. It's a game that again doesn't particularly feel like a strong PC game. It probably will come to Switch at some point because everything comes to Switch now.
Sounds like you're better off going for Hue, because that takes that to a whole new level. Anyway.
Yes, or just buy the Impossible Game. You'll get your fill from this.
Okay.
For the King is one of Curve Digital's games. I've seen this advertised a lot. It's a very pretty game. Everything looks like it's made in paper, and I like that. But it's an RPG. It's a well, not a point and click RPG, but it's definitely there's a lot of clicking. There's a lot of mouse work. It's turn based fighting. It's all the wrong side of an RPG for me, sadly. I like the look of it, but I'm not going to enjoy this game fully, so I kind of glossed past it. And there are a lot of really good Curve Digital games, but sadly they were there to show their Switch ports of existing games that I have already. But I did try the Manuel Samuel port, and that made me go, "Oh, I'm buying Manuel Samuel on the Switch." I'd never get to play it on the PlayStation, so I have 2 copies of that game now. Thanks, Curve Digital.
Well, while we're mentioning them as well, they had Rogue Aces there again, and that's still worthy of a recommendation. Still
It's
great.
currently on sale. I think it's like £5.
Yeah,
so,
pick that up at that price.
there you
That's
go.
ridiculous.
Miles and Kylo. This is another game I played and instantly went and bought on the Switch as well. I can't remember that this had a previous game that it's based that was this is the sequel to.
Right.
But the previous game was like an 8-bit style. This one's more a 16-bit style or the 32. I don't know. I don't understand bits. But anyway, so
it's all bits in my day, Coleman. All bits as far as the eye could see.
You play as a young boy and his dog, and the whole point of this game is speed running. You speed run 2D platforming levels, and it's perfect for me. You run, you can jump on enemies' heads, unless they're an enemy that don't allow you to jump on their heads, such as a crab, because their pincers are in the air. You can bounce off things, you can collect fruit, which you then throw fruit at bad guys. And you can break through walls, and then if you find your dog Kylo, you'll grab him, and then you suddenly get like more Sonic type attacks. You can jump in the air and spin attack and home on things. It's very enjoyable, very addictive. It's another perfect fit for the Switch. Again, I think this is on sale as well, so I picked this up at the right time. I'm really enjoying this game so far. Valfaris, I think is the name of the game.
Needs a bit of a run up to get there, but you got there in the end, Coleman, I think.
Another game that is a sequel to a previous game that I've never heard of before, but this is a very good-looking 16-bit pixelated style platformer. You play like a kind of... It kind of reminds me of Heavy Metal, the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, but done as
movie?
Yeah.
Right, I thought you meant the game.
Heavy Metal was a movie.
Okay.
Was there a game on Heavy Metal?
I don't think it's the same property, most likely.
Gotcha. No, reminds me of the game Heavy Metal, where it's kind of done like a weird heavy metal album cover when they used to look so beautiful, and made into a game. You're on this weird planet, and you're like Conan the Barbarian, but you have a laser sword and a gun and a Gatling gun. And it's very visceral, and I love it. And it's got an amazing chiptune soundtrack that is done out of heavy metal songs, and it's really cool to play. I really enjoyed this game.
What's this on?
I think this is just coming to PC at the moment, but I'm sure this will come to console because it's so good. I saw it win a couple of indie awards as well, so at the show. So I've seen this taken a few people as a top pick. It's well worth trying out for yourself. I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to remember what I was likening it to, because it definitely reminds me of Lionheart, which no one knows what that game is but me. That's an old Amiga game.
Okay.
Turrican. It's kind of like
Turrican. Okay.
Yes, I felt like the game it played like a mixture between Lionheart and Turrican, and I really enjoyed that, but much more fast paced. So there you go. Wavey Rocket, another set of guys that we had on the show to interview. This is the most infuriating game I played at EGX, but for some reason I love it because it isn't like anything else I played.
Frustrating.
Yes. You have a rocket, you're controlling it with a waveform. You have to either make that waveform taller or make it wider. Taller, smaller, or wider or shorter. And trying to switch in between those and knowing which is right is very difficult. Like it's this weird pat your head and rub your stomach type thing that I constantly kept getting confused. Luckily, they're very, very gracious with their checkpoints, so I wouldn't be stuck on a place for too long. And then once you've got the hang of something, then it's now to the next piece of infuriation to try and get past. There's also like a jump button as well, so you can boost your ship. But when you boost your ship, you boost the waveform with the ship. So the shape that you're particularly following may have changed, and that's a good way of getting out of your waveform is perfect, except for it's going straight into an obstacle. If you did that boost, it might jolt it into the right way. Bit of a gamble, but when it works out, it's very satisfying. Super great game, great music. It looks very simple. I'm sure this is going to get ported on everything because it's a winner.
Cool.
Yeah. We also play. Well, the games that are available that we've also played. You've played Blood and Truth.
I thought we'd give a few of these an honorable mention because they're things we've had access to available ahead of time, and otherwise we would have probably gravitated towards playing them at the show. And for me, 3 of these games could have been strong contenders for my game of the show as well, basically. So,
yeah.
But yeah, Blood and Truth I played before. It was the same demo, or it looked at least like it was the same demo that I'd played at Develop Brighton. So if you want to go hear me talk about that, we talked about that before. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a fantastic game for PSVR. Yeah, really looking forward to that. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown.
I did play that. I think what we had at EGX was the E3 build and not the Gamescom build.
Right,
we only had Mission 6 and not Mission 7. And as well, the big giveaway was all the German options have been taken out. So I'm assuming that's the E3 build rather than the EGX
Right,
one.
that would make sense because it's all English language as well. But that means that we got to play a bit more than was at the show. And you can actually see all that video content on our YouTube channel. So we'll leave that to that.
Yep, Jump Force was there. That was the same build with the Bleach content as well. That seemed to go down pretty well with a lot of people. My Heroes 1's Justice was also there, but unfortunately next to it was getting overshadowed because Soulcalibur was there.
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to be loving that game who played it. I got Will to come play with us as well, one of the listeners, Will Driver, who, he can get some rounds on me, but he couldn't get a win on me. I was quite happy. He's like, so did you play these games? I was like, I've missed a few, but I've played this game for a couple of hours, probably in total now. So that was quite funny. Still very good. Definitely worth picking up. Dark Pictures Anthology, Man of Medan. It's the same build that we played, obviously. Did have an interesting bit of feedback from a friend who really, really, really likes Until Dawn. Uses it as like a party game now, funny enough.
I guess everyone to chip in. Sort of.
Yeah. So if anyone hasn't played it before, then they can go, oh, don't go in there. Yeah. And he didn't like this. He thought, not because of the game itself, just he thought the demo that was chosen, the section that was used was not the most exciting.
Right, but it is a very difficult game to demo in that respect because you have to have some care about the characters, and that takes a bit of time to build.
Yeah.
And you have to have some understanding of the character a little bit to care
it's
about them.
It's clearly taken from very early on in the game, so as not to give too much of the plot away.
Like the original demo of Until Dawn was really glossed over by a lot of people. Like I came back, and I'm holding my hand up to say this not because I'm brilliant or anything, but just because it's one I got right about. Until Dawn I came back raving about, and I said the demo had its limitations, but I guarantee you the finished product is going to be good. And I still have faith in this from the demo that we've played.
I think the reason that was overlooked, though, is because it wasn't initially a PS4 game. It was a PS3 game, and it was meant to be a move game.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the reason why people glossed over it a little bit. But I'm really glad I got to play that demo because it turned my head back onto the game ahead of time.
Sounds painful.
The only thing I'll say about the Dark Pictures Anthology is I'm slightly worried that it might be derivative of Until Dawn enough to not really be its own thing. But that's something only time will tell.
Okay. All right, well, that is absolutely everything we have played. Oh, and also all those Bandai Namco games, you can go listen to those on episode 307.5. Timmy, take the fly stick of BRB UK. That's the one where we went to Namco and took all these games. Anyway, that is absolutely everything. I'm rushing now because we've gone massively over what I intended, and I'm going to be late for a thing, and this show is going to be about 2.5 hours long, I reckon, after it's all done. So... great. That's fun for me. Anyway, once again, thanks to EGX for letting us have press passes and come to the show, and that was really cool. We got to see loads of cool games, like even more amazing people, and we had a lot of fun, and we got to be with our friends, and that's all great stuff that we got to do. So we're very happy for that. And thank you to all the awesome people there that came to show off your games, and so many amazing games, so many amazing people. Once again, don't know how they do it. I'm already getting in the prep for res now. So
it's one of those things. Like, as I only spent the 2 days there, I would have loved to spend 4 days because I got to see even more. I think I crammed quite a lot into those 2 days, but there were so many more games that I wanted to play and see. There was a few things missing, as we alluded to earlier in the show, but I still think it was definitely worth coming to, and glad that we had a good time and everyone seemed to have a good time. And thank you very much, and also thank you to you, Mr. Coleman, for all your audio efforts and putting this monster together once again. It is not unappreciated by myself or anyone that is listening, so thank you.
That's okay. I got to do other stuff this year. I'm quite tired. Anyway, so this has been episode 310 of the Big Red Barrel UK podcast. I have been Coleman.
I might have been Tim, and we both might be quite tired and going to sleep soon.
Yeah. Thank you to all our lovely guests for being on the show. And we should be back to normal on Friday, although I don't think I'm on the show. I might be missing a little while. Anyway, Dan will be back most probably. We'll get some people to fill in for me. And until next time, dear listeners, a goodbye.
Your ears are quite welcome
for the podcasting goodness that you just heard.
Why not roll on over
to BigRedBarrel.com
for more podcasts,
news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarrel.com.
Grand Theft Arachnid is how I want to describe it. It looks so good.
It's so good, Dan.
It is Marvel's Spider-Man, exclusively out on the PlayStation 4, I believe.